अनिल सर स्टार्ट करंतु।
धन्यवाद समस्त को सुस्वागत। आमर आज सुंदर टॉपिक थीम टॉक आज रही लीगल बिजनेस फॉर द एंटरप्रेन्योर्स। जेतेबेले आमर लीगल एस्पेक्ट आछी छोटिया जिनस माइंड को आसे गोटे छोट कोटेशन जे आमर पांचटा जिनस प्राइड, इरेस्पॉन्सिबल स्पीच, फ्यूरी, एंगर एंड सेल्फिशनेस आता सहित रहिला अनलॉफुल एक्ट and the breaching the trust। ये जो पांचटा वेपन रहिला दैट कॉर्सट द लॉन्गेटिविटी पार्टिकुलरली हमर जो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स रहउचंती बिजनेसमैन रहउचंती जोठी के हमर प्रथम स्लोगन रहउची जे इग्नोरेंस ऑफ लॉ इज नॉट टू बी एक्सक्यूज्ड। आ लॉ आमे जेते सुंदर भाबरे एथिकली आ लॉफुली आमे जिंसटा चलीबा सो हमर निजर प्लस बिजनेस एज ए होल गोटे डिसिप्लिन्ड वे रे स्ट्रीमलाइन हेके चलीबो एंड सक्सेस विल बी very good reach and smooth reach। quotation तो बहुत अच्छी। there are many who speak pleasant thought not truth there are few who speak truth though not pleasant। the latter are the friends in spirit while the former are worldly। तो आज ये जो सुंदर थीम तक रही हमर लीगल बिजनेस गाइड फॉर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स इथिरे हमको बड़ा सुंदर कॉम्बिनेशन रही हमर स्पीकर मोस्ट डायनामिक एंथुसियास्टिक यूथ हमर मिस्टर सुप्रिया एंड मिस आदेश इंट्रोडक्शन तो देबी से जनकर ब्लेंड भितरे आज जो थीम तक भितरे से माने हमको गाइड करके नै जिवे कंटेंट्स हमर बेसिकली रहइबो जे हमर जो बिजनेस आमे जतेबेले स्टार्ट करू छु आम फाउंडर्स किबा बिजनेसमैन एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पार्टिकुलरली फोकस करछि एंटायरली तार प्रोडक्ट एंड सर्विसेज को एंड हाउ टू कैच द मार्केट। सो इन ए हरी से मानकर जो फोरसाइटनेस रहउछि जो दूरदृष्टि रहउछि से जिंसटारे काफी किछि लेखना रहउछि आ छोट छोट जिंस माइनॉरिटी रे से माने छाडी दियंती जोटा कि से मानको बहुत प्रॉब्लम फेस करिया पे बोली पड़ी थाए। ऑफ कोर्स से कहे गेटिंग योर बिजनेस अप एंड रनिंग इट्स अ प्रायोरिटी बट इट्स आल्सो इंपोर्टेंट टू बी माइंडफुल ऑफ द लीगल implications of your business strategy। So consulting a lawyer sooner rather than later helps you to avoid the adverse legal consequences, also to protect your rights and to minimize the potential litigations and all। आमर आज जो कॉम्बिनेशन रही सुंदर दुई जन भितर जोड़ी तो एठी आमर कवरेज बेसिकली रहइबो आमर जो स्टार्टअप एंटरप्रेन्योर्स रहउचंती सो स्टार्टअप्स रे आमर कोन फैक्टर्स गुडा को आमर सपोर्ट करूची ता ऊपर हाइलाइट करिवे ता एतरे आज रहइबो आमर जो गवर्नमेंट रो डिफरेंट स्कीम्स रहिछि स्टार्टअप ता ऊपर किछटा हाइलाइट रहइबो। आदेश इज देयर सीए कंसल्टेंट फॉर दिस स्टार्टअप एंड अदर ईयर मु तार डिटेल हाइलाइट देबी। So our necessity of lawyer कौन रही एंटरप्रेन्योर्स पाई बोली पार्टिकुलरली हाउ दे विल बी सो हेल्पफुल टू रन आवर शो। बेसिकली कवरेज हमर रहइबो द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ ए स्टार्टअप केमति रहइबो तार फाइनेंसिंग ऑप्शंस रहइबो हमर कॉम्प्लायंस ऑफ लॉ हमें केमति करि परिबा स्मूथली केमति करि परिबा ता ऊपर की कवर रहइबो। हमर जो स्टार्टअप्स रही ता पई क्विक टिप्स कोन रहउची से मानकर एक्सपीरियंस से माने बड़ सुंदर भाबरे शेयर करिवे विथ पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन एंड ऑल। So overall amar rahiba managing a business during a stressful situation how best we can handle and all। अच्छा amar ए जो आज ये जो सुंदर कार्यक्रम रही एटा हमर कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ हमर उत्कल लॉ चैम्बर्स एंड ओसीएफ रो जॉइंट कोलैबोरेशन रे आज ये प्रोग्राम तक हमर अपलोड पाड़ी छे। सो लेट मी स्पीक लिटिल अबाउट फर्स्ट ओसीएफ ऊपर हमें समस्त ऑलमोस्ट किछटा जानि छे जस्ट दी लाइन रे मु कहया पे चाहू छी। OCF टा गोटे हैंडहोल्ड प्लेटफॉर्म फॉर ऑल द पोटेंशियल बॉडिंग एंड अपकमिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स ऑफ ओडिशा as well as also for who they are well placed in the corporate world in diverse sector and in different capacity। So amara OCF रे 1 year 1.5 year रा amara जो शो रही छी या भितरे हमें 200 अराउंड हमें वेबिनार्स डेली हमें 3-4 हमर वेबिनार डिफरेंट स्ट्रीम रे डिफरेंट सेक्टर रे पाउचे आमे हमर ओडिशा लेवल रे नेशनल लेवल रे प्लस इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस ऊपर भी तार बहुत सुंदर सुंदर सब मॉडल्स रे आमे वेबिनार्स गुडा को डिजाइन करके डिफरेंट एंड यूजर्स हमर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स फ्रेंड्स जो माने अछंती बॉडिंग होंतु अपकमिंग होंतु किबा एक्जिस्टिंग माने पे हमें नहीं कि आसुचो ता भितरे ऑल सेगमेंट आपनकर हैंड होल्ड प्रोजेक्ट ये भितरे आमे देखुचो आपनकर फाइनेंसिंग कहला आपनकर एक्विजिशन कहला प्रोजेक्ट फिजिबिलिटी रहला आपनकर वायबिलिटी स्टडी रहला आपनकर मार्केटिंग रहला सो सेते सब एस्पेक्ट हमर डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली हमर एनवायरनमेंटल फैक्टर्स अछि जो जो जगह रे हमको अनिस रहुची हमर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को काहा को को लेवल रे किछि भी नॉलेज सेक रे हो किबा प्रैक्टिकल एनवायरनमेंटल ये रे रन दे जदी हमको किछि आसुची सीक्वेंस रे जदी किछि आसुची हमको प्रॉब्लम ताहले ताको ओसीएफ रो प्लेटफॉर्म रे हमर जदी सब हमर ओडिया भाई माने सब अछंती हमर कॉर्पोरेट माने हमर कंसल्टेंट अछंती एडवाइजर्स अछंती सो एज ए होल गोटे टीम रे आमे चेष्टा करूछु तो 1 to 1 बेसिस रे आमे दी बेस्ट केते आमे सॉल्यूशन दे परिबा आ आपन स्मूथली आमे आपन को हैंडल करके आगु को नै परिबा सो गोटे जनरली हमर ओडिसा रे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप स्किल ता बढ़ो एंटरप्रेन्योर्स पढंतु हमर आज जो नीड ऑफ द आवर हमर इंडिया रो जे प्रोडक्टिव आउटकम हमर पार्टिकुलरली मोर एंड मोर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स आसंतो एंटरप्राइजेस आसी की हमर इंडिया रो जो हमर इकोनॉमी ग्रो करू तो एई सब जिंस रे हमें हमर जो मेक इन इंडिया रहला ए सब जते सब हमर आज रो डेट रे कॉन्सेप्चुअल आछि लॉजिकली हमें ओसीएफ हमें समस्त चिंतन करके गोटे 1500-1600 ऊपर आज हेलुनी हमें गोटे टीम एडवाइजर टीम रे हमें रहिलुनी जो माने कि हमें चाहूछु जते सब हमर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स डिफरेंट फील्ड रे आसुछंती मोस्ट वेलकम आपण माने आसंतु आपण मानकर जहां भी सहयोग दरकार अछि आपण माने जणातु सो वी आर देयर टू सपोर्ट विथ तो आजिर ए जो प्रोग्राम ए जो हमर ओसीएफ रो इनिशिएटिव भितरे आजिर ए जो प्रोग्राम हमर रहिछि जे लीगल बिजनेस गाइड हमर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को कोन दरकार जे मु कहली तापे बोली हमर स्पीकर भी जणा अछंती आज हमर ओसीएफ रो एसेट भी सो मु सर्वप्रथम इंट्रोड्यूस करूची हमर मिस्टर सुप्रिय की स्पीकर जे की इंट्रोडक्शन में मु या कहबी सुप्रिय महापात्र ही जे पार्टनर ऑफ द फार्म हमर उत्पल लॉ चैम्बर्स and he manages the litigation and corporate practice of the firm. He specializes in corporate and commercial litigations, particularly insolvency and bankruptcy, shareholders dispute, real estate litigations, minority investor protection, contract enforcement, consumer protection and arbitration. He regularly conducts due diligence for various entities. He also covers non-litigation and transaction business covering mergers, acquisition and takeovers also. Joint ventures, PE investments and legal audits and due diligence exercises. So, Supriya, he helps with this conveyancing and real estate transactions, and he is drafting the commercial agreements, so on. Mr. Supriya, he focused on this building of this long-term relationship with clients, very young, energetic, and very dynamic in doing this relationship building with our clients in a justified, in a professional way. He gains a deep understanding of his client's business and the risk appetite of client in pursuit of better and the faster alternative dispute approaches. Prior to working with this firm, our Utpal Law Chambers, he was associated with the disputes and regulatory practice of Trilegal. During his association with this Trilegal, the most leading our national level organization Trilegal most noted. So he has handled international commercial arbitrations and domestic arbitrations arising out of the various commercial disputes. He also used to regularly advise the clients on various issues of arbitration, insolvency and regulatory disputes under the Electricity Act 2002 and so many. Supriya, he is an alumnus of this Tamil Nadu National Law University and he is enrolled with this Bar Council of Delhi. Jadi membership upre mu kahibi, he is a member of Delhi High Court Bar Association, NCLAT जोटा हमारा Bar Association, Odisha High Court Bar Association, Singapore International Arbitration Center, Delhi International Arbitration Center, and also this amar jota nani palkiva arbitration center achi e sabuta kar he is a respected member. So many cases he is handling amar jota Fortune 500 companies ra all e jo aspect guda ko mo cover kali so ta upare so many cases se handle kari ye करछथि भुवनेश्वर रे ऑलरेडी तांकर ऑफिस भी से ओपन करूछथि भुवनेश्वर कटक एंड दिल्ली तांकर ऑफिसेस रहिछि so he is closely associated with this amara OCF also for the handholding support and professional guidance to our entrepreneurs. So he will be taking all the legal and aspect and why this lawyer is so important for entrepreneur and what are the steps, what are the ground level works entrepreneur has to keep in mind to move ahead and to make everything smooth. So while introducing amara ajira another speaker amara Adesha. So Adesha she is a consultant amara Bhubaneswar ro Adesha Mahanti. Adesha को introduce करिया को गला मु कहूची Adesha is a chartered engineer. She is a graduate in chemical engineering, master in environmental engineering and have a specialization in environmental law. She is a alumnus of this GIT Guntur, IIT Delhi and the National Law University Bangalore. She has over 14 years of corporate experience in handling these complex lump sum turnkey contracts, these EPC and PPP projects in India and abroad in various sectors such as this water and sanitation, waste management, infrastructure, oil and gas and power sectors. Adesha, she has brought the knowledge, experience and learning to this Utkal Law Chambers from some of the biggest conglomerates in India and the world's Fortune 500 companies like Tata, Amki, Viola and this Suez, UAM, Jota ki Toshiba Azero Data and these countries. Her profiles across all these organizations includes the process, mechanical, audit, this project management, contracts and commercial, sales and marketing, business development, strategy, marketing management, and this brand management, so on. So both diversified rahichi. Adesha exposure, experience भी से अनुसार से gain करछे that she will be sharing with all of us आज रो जो program रे. Adesha upre kahibi she is a green belt in Six Sigma. She was a certified auditor to Suez and an external assessor to the Tata Group for over 13 years. She was also a certified trainer in women empowerment, gender diversity forum, and post committee for all the above organizations. Membership, Adeshankar membership Rauchi Institute of Engineers रे American World Water Association रे रहिछि and of chemical engineers. So ये जो brief profile सहित brief exposure सहित हमारा आज रो जो key speakers हमारा most young dynamic दुजन अछन speaker आज रो हमर जो topic रहिछि theme तक ताको सुंदर भाबरे cover करिवे. So आपण मानको समस्त को हार्दिक स्वागत हमर OCF प्लेटफॉर्म तरफरु हमर आज रो सेमिनार को besides हमर speakers को बर्तन मु फ्लोर को हैंड ओवर करूची. आपण मानको आपण ऑडियंस हमर समस्त अच्छे मु अनुरोध करिवि जोठी भी किछि भी हमर डाउट रोचे हमर चैट बॉक्स रे आपण माने निहाती आपनकर क्वेश्चंस को रेज करंतु एंड आवर ये एक्सपीरियंस्ड स्पीकर्स so they will be close touch close connectivity with you. मु भाबुची आज सेशन ता बहुत वंडरफुल रहइबो बहुत एनर्जेटिक रहइबो बहुत वैल्यू एडिशन रहइबो. Thank you, thanks a lot. So first I request Mr. Supriya to run the show.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Anil Uncle, for production. So this webinar would be very concise and very precise, and we'll be trying to restrict our speech and our talk on how an entrepreneur will be able to emphasize and focus on building its business and leaving the remedy for a lawyer to handle it. So for this for this presentation, we have divided into two technical aspects. The technical aspects will be handled by Adesha, and the legal aspect I'll be handling it personally. So I call upon Adesha to take upon the stage and to present with the technical experts of the legal business remedy for an entrepreneurs.
Let's welcome Adesha.
Sir, whether OCA would be able to allow us to share the screen, we have in PowerPoint presentations. Bhairav, hello. Hello, Bhairav.
सूरज भाई आपण अछंती गोटे सेकंड
Yes, I am here.
हाँ हमर बैक ऑफिस रे जस्ट के काइंडली कहि देबे सपोर्ट करिया पे हमर जो पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन तक ताको ये करिया पे प्लीज
Okay. ଏବେ କିଏ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ସେକଣ୍ଡ? Yeah.
पिट्टू का बोले पानी वाले ढोल दे दो दी
ଅମିତ ମହାପାତ୍ର ସିଏ ଅଛନ୍ତି ତ ଅମିତ ମହାପାତ୍ର ଆପଣ ଅଛନ୍ତି? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
हेलो ओ सेफ अमित
Hello.
अछ की
हेलो हाँ यस अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा
ଅମିତ
Okay, good.
ଆପଣ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଯିଏ ହୋଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ଯିଏ ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କୁ
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ପାୱାର ଦିଅନ୍ତୁ ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍ ସେୟାରିଂ ର
आगे
କାହିଁକି ନା ଆପଣ କୋ ହୋଷ୍ଟ ଅଛନ୍ତି।
ठीक अच्छे सर
पानी नहीं रे पानी नहीं हो
now Supriya he is the co-host so he can add on connectivity
सर अपन ये करंतु चेंज करंतु जे कहू नांती डिस्टर्बेंस स्पीकर को छड़ा अन्य माने काइंड करंतु बहुत डिस्टर्बेंस होछि
Adyasha, can you just start with the presentation right now? You're not audible. You're not audible. Unmute yourself. Hello. Not audible.
सुप्रिय सर आपण कहवा स्टार्ट करंतु
All right. One second. Actually, ये part टा अध्यासा अच्छी तो ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଟିକେ ମୁଁ wait କରୁଥିଲି।
आद्याशा मैडम को अनम्यूट करा गलानी से कहि परिबे
You're not audible, Adyasha. I think why don't you change your headphone?
Am I audible now?
Yeah, it's audible.
Okay, I think there is a problem in the headphone. Okay, fine. So, okay, thank you OCF for giving us this opportunity. Thank you Anil sir for a generous introduction. And let's start the meeting. So before starting the meeting, I would say something that ODA रे सब बेले हमें कहू कि सब बेले गोटे घरे व्हाइट कोट आउ ब्लैक कोट लोक दरकार यू नेवर नो केते बेले कोन प्रॉब्लम आसीबो बट बिलीव मी इट्स नॉट इन अ फैमिली even outside family you always need someone some lawyer who would talk to you and who can take you out from the risk so yes and we will discuss in today's session that how a lawyer and how this legal thing can affect your business and can help you to grow and can make you a proper exit strategy when you are in problem. And if you actually have a good lawyer, then it is very easy to go through this and you can avoid the future problems and the hindrances which you will face. So let's start. The first thing we will explain you about the startup factors checklist. So the factors for structuring an enterprise. So what is an enterprise? If you have a business, you have a company which you have intent to have some profit from it, that is called an enterprise. So what are the important factors that you need when you go for an enterprise or a company or a business? So first thing is the location. Why the location of the business is important? Because as you know, in India, we have a diversified areas, geographical areas. There are some rural areas, there are some towns, then cities, and there are tier 1, tier 2 towns, cities. So you cannot expect the same customer requirements and the same result all over the area. So it varies between different business. Hello? It varies between different locations. So the location is very important. If you are doing a business in metros like Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, whatever result you are expecting and whatever commercial or financial thing you are expecting, you cannot expect the same if you are doing some village or in some rural area. So it is very important according to your business and to understand what the location of the business is so that you can plan your business like that. So would you please go to the previous slide?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, thank you. So the location of the business is very important when you, because it is a factor which will affect your business. The second thing is the mentorship of the founder. So we all know mentorship is very important, whether you are in school or college or business or you are in a family. So important. And if you think the mentor is in a different place and the business in a different location, there creates a huge communication gap between all the stakeholders. So wherever your business is, the founders should be there because every business is customer oriented and it is very important to bridge that gap. So yes, the mentorship of the founders is very important and they should always be associated with the business and location of the business. Then the third thing is pre-incorporation of the finances. So there are two aspects of a business. One is your pre-incorporation, another is your post-incorporation. What is a pre-incorporation? When you start a business, when you legally register the business, anything you do before legally register it is called pre-incorporation. And there are so many things involved in it because you need to understand the environment factor, you understand the labor laws, you understand the law of the country where you are putting the business, you want you to understand the state regulations and rules in the state you are going to do the business. So yes, so here starts the legal thing. So you can understand the only two factors which are non-legal is location and mentorship. Then it directly comes to the legal field. So now you can understand how important the legal thing is. Even you need it before registering your company. You need the advice, you need the due diligence that the lawyers will prepare for you to mitigate the risk mitigation, both in commercial and then financial and the technical risk involved, which is mainly related to your business type. Then the fourth thing is your ease of doing business. So ease of doing business is very important because you are new entrepreneurs or you are aspiring to be the entrepreneurs. So I understand you research and read about the entrepreneurs and the startup companies who had established for 4 years or 5 years back. If you can take an example of Oyo Room owner who is from Odisha. So I have read an article about him. He said that he actually did 6 to 7 years of research before starting the Oyo. So the ease of doing business is important because there are so many factors into it. You need to understand the transportation, the logistics factor, rules, regulation, what is the customer requirement. If you are doing an e-commerce in a village where people used to go to the vegetable market, right? it won't happen. Because you understand the customer's requirement. Doing a good business is fine, but if you want to have the sustainability factor of the business, then you need to understand how it will be hassle for you and where the scope of growth is there for you. So you understand, and I think everybody in India plays a major role till we get a value-added tax. But now it is GST everywhere. Wherever you go, you need to have GST. And all the companies faced 2 to 3 years of this taxation complications in corporates, in small enterprises, medium enterprises, because of GST, because they are not aware of the tax implications and the tax policies. So if you are an employee, it is not important for you because you already have a finance and accounts department in corporates. So you don't care about that. But when it is your own business, it is very important to understand as an owner, as an entrepreneur, that how this taxation and the regulatories work and how it affects your business. Because if you are an entrepreneur, you have a business in renewable energy sector, just for I'm saying, or in water sector, then there are so many things which are exempted. You do not have to pay any tax because those are social infrastructure, which is basically service to the society. So you need to understand, if you are doing a business, then what are the profits, what are the advantages of your type of business you are doing. So for that, you need to understand the regulatory and tax implications of this sector, and it is very, very important. Then it comes the funding of the enterprises. It is very important. If somebody is doing business, we all know. Obviously, you want to grow in that business and you want to earn money, you want to earn profit. And if you are a visionary, then you might, like McDonald's, like Microsoft, one day after 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, you are going to a big conglomerate. So for that, you need investors, you need loans from either bank or non-profit organizations or state government or central government. So you need to understand and find a way where you can get the funding, where people can do business, so that you can become a large business maybe after 4 or 5 years down the road. So the funding, how it will come, who will fund it, how people can fund your business, how you are different than others, how innovative and creative technology you have for this startup. So the funding depends on that, because for the investors always want some guarantee. If they're investing money in your company, then they want guarantee how this will benefit to them, like venture capitalists, like the angel investors. They invest in critical startup, the product-based startup. Then what happens when you grow? They get the stake in that startup. So you need to understand thoroughly how this funding works, what are the things you need to do for funding, how you can attract different investors, and you can raise the fund for them. So that's what is funding. Then the last part is innovation and technology upgradation. And I do not think I have to talk much about it, because everybody now knows how innovation and technology works. Everybody has a mobile. If nowadays, if you want to start sending money, I guess it takes only 5 seconds. You can just put the mobile number, you go for online banking and you transfer it. So like, I'll give you one personal example. Like, we used to go to get milk every day in the morning, 6 o'clock. It doesn't matter whether it's a weekend or weekday, but I had to get up and go for the milk. Otherwise, if I'll get delayed, then I'll not get the milk packets. So, but 2 years back, this milk basket came up with an idea where they actually delivered the milk baskets at your doorstep. And believe me, since then, I have never been to any shop. So the thing is, one few people thought of that thing, that, okay, we are facing this problem and how we can mitigate this thing and how we can make it easy for customers so that they don't have to invest energy, they don't have to invest time, and they get what they want and in a cheaper rate. So when Milk Basket started, they didn't charge any money. Rather, their milk pouch charge was 1 rupee less than the normal market price. But after 2 years, now when they are a very big brand, they are charging 10 rupees at delivery charge, and people are not hesitating to give that 10 because now they have built that trust, because people know that they are innovative. They started with milk, then they added grocery to it, then they added extra other items to it. So yes, when you actually build up trust for the customers that you serve, and you can only do that if you have innovative technology and you upgrade it continuously. Even if you go to the corporates, different factories, everything is now automatic. Nobody is using manual automation. So yes, that is very important factor to this. So these are all important factors that you need to take care of when you think of a startup business. Now we will define what is a startup. So who has defined this startup? The organization is DIPP, which is a government organization, and we call it Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. So they have defined how a startup is different than enterprise. Like we, in the previous slide, we discussed enterprise. Now we understand how can you call an enterprise a startup. So there are 4 things into it: age, entity type, turnover, and nature of innovation. So age means that if a company is of 7 years from the date of incorporation, we call it a startup, irrespective of the sector, but only when it is biotech sector, it has to be for 10 years, because a biotech sector is a critical sector where you have, more risk involved, and there is a lot of research involved into it. R&D, research and development. So yes, so for that it is 10 years, for other sectors it is 7 years. Entity type, it can be a private limited, it can be a LLP, or it can be a partnership firm. When it's about turnover, it should not exceed more than 25 crore. So if you have a business which is in between 7 years of incorporation, which is either a private limited or a LLP or a partnership firm, and which turnover is less or around 25 crore, and you have a particular product, this is a most important factor of a startup. No startup can survive. There is no sustainability factor if there is no scope for innovation or there is no product offering, because that is how you can attract investors, that is how you can build trust. So age, entity, turnover are very tangible terms, but when it is about mind, it is about your thought process, it is about creativity, which will actually help you to grow and to sustain. That is called innovation. And you all know, like Tata, because I have worked in Tata, so I can vouch for Tata. There is no other company in the world who will create a car like Nano, like Tata did. Because Ratan Tata realized the need of this car for the lower middle class family, and he did it. And yes, if people can buy a bike of 1 lakh rupees, they can definitely buy a car of 1 lakh rupees where they can travel with their kids, their wife, and they can save themselves from rain or winter or whatever. So yes, innovation is very important. It doesn't matter how small or big your business is, but the only sustainability factor in a business is innovation always. So you have to always keep in mind the product you are offering, the creativity that goes into it, the research that goes into it, and the upgradation of the technology, adapting today's market and time and demand of the customer. So next slide, please. Okay, so now we will go to the recognition process. So if I'm a person, I'm a single person, matte gote startup banayar achi, मु भाविदेली कि केमती स्टार्टअप बना हबो मु गोटे लीगल कंसल्टेंट ने गेली तांको सहित कथा हे गेली तांको सहित डिस्कशन करतेली मोर प्राइवेट हवा दरकार एलएलपी हवा दरकार मोर पार्टनरशिप रे जिबा दरकार आई कैलकुलेटेड all the risk mitigation is done मोर पाखरे मोर पार्टनर अछि मोर पाखरे मोर लीगल पार्टनर अछि मोर पाखरे फंडिंग पार्टनर भी अछि then what आमे केमती सेटा को आगो को what is the basic process which we have to follow. The first thing is online application form, which you will get it online. Supporting documents. So there are a series of documents that you have to upload, like the founder and team details, like the entity details, what type of business करूचा, कौन करूचा, business model. केते जन लोक रहिबे से बिजनेस या तो तमर ई कॉमर्स रे अछि या तो तमर फूड एंड बेवरेज रे अछि या तो तमर एनर्जी सेक्टर रे अछि या तो तमर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट so you need to give all these details ip details and self certification compliance and labelers it is very important कोनोसी कंपनी जदी आपण खोलुचंती कोई भी कंपनी खोलंतु कोई भी बिजनेस खोलंतु you have to compliant with all the laws and regulations and ता भीतर गोटे important level law is very important karan in future if you have a conflict with a like labor strike or anything like that you need to manage that but before that how you can mitigate the risk then you have to be well compliant with the labor laws and your legal partner is there to then the will take 15 to 20 minutes no okay so 15 to 20 minutes just 15 to 20 minutes सब दिन upload करियो like regular you are uploading anything in the website so it is just like that so before doing it keep your things ready with you always go through the government procedures what are the things you need to upload so that you will be ready well in advance so that when you upload it you have all the things ready with you it shouldn't happen you are uploading and then you didn't have anything or you missed something so it is always better to go through all the process and terms and conditions in the site itself first then the application evaluation it happens ki tamara credibility tamara authenticity of the documents kete then the recognition as a startup the government gives you and it will take 24 to 48 hours jodi everything is fine jodi sabu jinsa thik rahila it will just happen in 24 to 48 hours if there is something missing or they want some clarification in the document au kichi if you have given a document but tanko au kichi supporting document darkar related to that main document then you will be given a second chance to again upload the process that's why I'm saying that whenever you are doing it first thing is you need to talk to people जो मैंने already से जिनसे करी so that you will have an idea कि okay ये सब जिनसे दरकार ये सब जिनसे दरकार मते एटा करिया दरकार second जिनसे is you yourself go through the all terms and conditions जो थ्री कि you can understanding okay how to do it when to do it how to get it what are the approvals you need to get it so all these things and then you are good to go next slide please okay so the third is nation of job creators okay this is an interesting thing a slide so I will start from our country level now everybody know that we are in the lockdown and government is coming up with so many policy changes so many packages where funding is involved investment is involved and there is always make in India and now we have banned Chinese also and Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Finance now they have come up with different notifications where they have stated कि manufacturing unit you cannot have this kind of product from Chinese manufacturers and you cannot have certain things from few of the neighboring countries so yes it is very important it is always important what is your vision is as an entrepreneur it should align with your state government and central government visions if you are doing something which is not aligned with your state government and central government initiatives then it is very difficult to get through the process you will get through the process but it will be difficult But if it is aligned with the vision of your state government and central government, it will become very easy. So you all know Make in India is going on, and government, central government is coming up with so many investments, so many yojanas, so many schemes, which we will of course discuss in the later slides. So if we go to the facts and figures, then there is 1,06,618 jobs reported and 9,091 startup, India recognized as startup. So you can understand যদি ଲକ୍ଷେ 6,000 ଭିତରେ 9,000 startup ହେଲା ଏବେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ, with this policy schemes କେତେ ଆଗକୁ ଏଇଟା ଯାଇପାରିବ, right? So मतलब it is very it is good for the people who are now thinking of startups, because the policies and schemes are also in their favor. जस्ट थिंक कि आज 10 वर्ष 15 वर्ष पूर्व जो मैंने स्टार्टअप करथिले, जो मैंने बिजनेस स्टार्ट करथिले, तांको पई इट वाज मस्ट हैव बीन वेरी डिफिकल्ट, कारण निज प्रोडक्ट बुझेबा, लोकंग भितर एते अवेयरनेस रहिबा, and से जिंसो को आगे नहीं की जिबा, and India, you know, there are a lot of things which creates hurdle, like there are some logistics issue, transportation issue, there is issue of politics things, and there are a lot of issues which are involved. And as India is a very big country, then there is southern India, then northern India, then eastern India, then western India. So even there are different people, different culture. So when you market something in India across pan India, it gets very difficult to convince different type of people from diversified culture, and your state and central government didn't have that policy or schemes which will help you to grow. But now think of the people, the generation who go for this startup. And yes, and you can find even there is a gender diversity, so you can find so many women you know, progressing with the startups, and they are the directors of the startups, so which is a very good thing. And I personally wish them all the best, and we really look forward to more women participate for that. Okay, so now we will come for the for startups. So there are 10 things you have to quickly understand that how it forms a startup. First is foundation agreement. So there are so many agreements which are involved. There is a level law, and there is tax regulatory, and there is a memorandum of articles, there are association of articles, there is simple partnership deed, then joint venture agreement, non-disclosure agreements. So there is a lot of agreements involved in it. And Supriya will take you to all the agreements in detail in the later phase of the session. And second is just structuring the business. Okay, so you need to structure the business. You need to understand that which field you are going to have your startup. So if you have an office setup, then where you have to do that office setup, and how many people you want to recruit in the first phase of it, how you are going to plan the business model. You should have a plan for, you know, quarterly plan, short-term plan, then mid-term plan, then long-term plan to understand. Then you have a proper research ready, that what the customer wants, how you want to take it forward. So this is how you need to structure it. Then third thing is fundraising. So as I already explained you, fundraising is about the investors and how they could invest. It can be a credit loan, it can be something from bank, it can be from the non-profit organizations, it can be from a venture capitalist, it can from angel investors. So yes, there is a lot of sources of funding. Funding is good, but even during funding and when you are getting the investors, it is very important you get your legal things in place, you get all the agreements, you understand the due diligence of the project financing and the aspect of it. So when it is about money, it is not just investment, but there are a lot of legalities involved into it. So that is how a lawyer can help you to understand and make a plan of risk mitigation, which involves both the legal factor and the financing factor of your business. Then the safeguard of IPR. So yes, you need to understand if you have a product, you have innovative product, you have a solution, you need to patent it, you need to have the intellectual property rights for that so that nobody can copy it, and you need to safeguard. The core heart of your business is your product if you are a startup. So it is very important. Before it falls into a wrong hand, you need to safeguard it. So yes, and for that also, you need to have the policies and the agreements ready where a lawyer can help you out for this. Then there is a non-disclosure agreement where you have to have this agreement with a party where the party actually says that that party will not disclose anything which is between you and that party. That is how you do this non-disclosure agreement. It can be with your vendor, it can be with your contractor, it can be with your stakeholders. So yes, which is also involved the legal person. Accounts in order, that is very important. You need to understand what is your in, what is your out, what is your expenses, and how much money you have and how much money you are expecting and how you are going to invest that amount. So yes, what is your profitability factor? What is your IRR value? How you are going to do it? You need to have a finance or a chartered accountant for your company who would keep a track of this, so that when you have audits and everything, then it comes clean, because it is very important. And then it comes to the comply with the labor law, like I already explained you. So you need to be aware of the labor laws, and you need to have all the papers ready for that. Then the privacy, nobody should breach your privacy, and you need to have a privacy agreement with the lawyer or the legal partner you have. Then the legal compliances, which involves so many policies, labor policy when you do it for your HR policy, and your tax regulations, and with the vendors, contractors, and the stakeholders when you do the agreements. So the basic thing, even though there are 10 checklists, you can understand how important a legal partner is for yourself. So this is our main motto as Utkal Law Chambers, that we provide you everything at one go. So you will find, you need not to go to different people for different things. You will find everything at one place. So, and we have people who understand this. So we have expertise for this. So, and you can understand from these points how important, I think, after you, the second thing is important here is a legal partner that you have, and of course the business partner that you have. So you need to be very careful when it is about a business, a startup. Anything can go wrong at any time, and you need to have an exit strategy for that well in advance. Next slide, please, Supriyo. Okay, so factors for structuring a startup is a location of business that we already discussed, presence of founders we have already discussed, period agreement we already discussed, and ease of doing business that we have already discussed. So these are the 4 factors. Then it comes a business survival strategy during COVID-19. We all know, we all are going through this period. Okay, now I request you for a 2-second break so that I can have some water. Thank you. So, okay, so now we will see that if it is a COVID-19, if you have a startup which you started just prior to the COVID-19 situation or during the COVID-19 situation, because nobody knew that it is going to be like this. We all thought, okay, 1 month lockdown, 2 month lockdown, then it will be over. But it looks like it will not be over till we get the vaccination. So yes, so we really need to understand if we have a startup already exist, or we are going to have a startup in near future or now, then what are the things that we need to take care of? The first thing is cash flow deficit, like tracking expenses. It is very important to minimize your expenses now. If you are traveling, don't do that. Then you set an office in the home where you can talk to people via Zoom or via any Skype video or anything, so that you can save your expenses. So saving expenses is very important. Whatever is expenses for the infrastructure or for the people, you need to save it, because if you track your expenses and you start saving it, then you would be able to plan it quite well in for next 1 year or so. And it is very important, at least till we get the vaccine, of course. So the second thing is feasibility of business model. So yes, you need to understand if you have a business model, and you must have thought that, okay, this business model will work, and after 6 months we'll have a different business model. So you need to recheck that again. You need to re-verify and remodel the business model again if you had done it before COVID. So you need to understand there are a lot of restrictions in the market, and it is difficult to even have a day-to-day life, spend a day-to-day life. So when it's about business, you have to be a bit more careful. There is nothing to scared of, but you need to be more careful, and you need to revisit the business model that you had done. You need to understand, okay, these are the restrictions, these are the factors we need to take care of. So you can remodel it and come up with another business model which will be beneficial for this time. And if you want any suggestion or anything from your legal partner, you can always go to him or go to her and ask for the advice in the making of the business model. Plan policies, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So you need to plan your policy for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, because now there is nothing you can plan for a year or a 2 years or a long term. So you always need to find it quarterly, then half monthly, half yearly, then yearly, because it will help you out to track everything. Then the patent and security investment. So that I have already discussed with you, that what are the investment you are doing, then you have to be very careful about that. And healthy relation with contracted parties. Yes. So now people are not healthy, and you cannot expect the relationship. There is a bit of bitterness in the relationship when it's about business between stakeholders, and which is quite obvious. But you still need to figure it out, because if you have a company, if you have a business, that is like your kid, that is like your baby. You cannot afford to have any kind of conflict or any kind of uh, problems with your stakeholders, because ultimately you have to work with them. You cannot have a business only with yourself. You need people, you need a team, and you need stakeholders if you want to run a business for a long term. So yes, you need to find a way how to maintain the healthy relationship, and just give a call them, like give a call in a week or so, just wish them when there is a festival. And because now you cannot meet anybody, and it is not even safe to meet anybody, so do virtual calls, and just ask them how they are and how you can help them if they are in a problem. And also it is just the basic manners and etiquettes. And I think Odisha regions are both common, like everybody, I think everybody like calls everyone, and Odisha is a culture ancient time to chali aschi. So it will not be difficult for people to call someone and just ask kemti acha kona mu kemti help kar paribi and all. So it is not as a business partner but as a human. Now this time it is always good that if you show some humanity and empathy. Then managing employees and related optimism, and this is also part of healthy relationship. So yes, tomar jete employees achanti, tama subordinates achanti, peers achanti, juniors achanti, so they all need emotional support nowadays. So business is now secondary, but to have a healthy relationship and that connection with the people that you are working with, yes, you need to do that. And it is quite easy, it doesn't cost you much for a call or something. So yeah, କେବେ ବି ସପ୍ତାହରେ ଗୋଟେ ଥର 15 ଦିନରେ ଗୋଟେ ଥର just call କରିକି just ask like how they are doing and everything, how you can help them. So that's enough for that. Okay, so next slide please. Okay, so now we will understand the 5 effective government schemes for startup. So one is your Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, which was launched in 2016. Industry sector is agnostic. Agnostic sector means the sectors which are related to finance, like investment, pension funds, investment, banking sectors and everything. So those are agnostic sectors, and which is headed by Mudra, which is Microfinance Development and Refinery Agency Limited. And it provides the finance support to the banks and MFI. MFI is microfinancing institutions for lending microcredits having loan requirement up to 10 lakhs. So it goes till 10 lakhs. They don't give more than 10 lakhs. The second thing is the Dairy Entrepreneurship Development Scheme, which was launched in 2014. And these are all central government schemes headed by National Bank for Agriculture and Development, NABARD. We all know NABARD. Industries, agricultural, pets, animals, social impact, food and beverage. So normally, ଯେତେକ food beverage sector ଅଛି, agriculture sector ଅଛି, dairy products sector ଅଛି, they are into NABARD. So whatever loan they need and everything, they get it from NABARD. So 25% of the outlay as back-ended by capital subsidy, subject to the applicable ceiling. So there is a subsidy to it. So 25% of the outlay, so 25% total project loan मिलिजिबो. But if you are fall to the SC/ST category or farmers category, then आपको 33% मिलेगा. But yes, there is a ceiling to it. So you need to understand what is the scheme, and you have to go through the complete scheme to understand के केते टंका रे केते scheme रे आपको केते टंका मिलिबो, आउ तार maximum limit केते अछि, so that you can plan in advance as per your as per the amount you have already or the investment you have got for your business. So Credit Enhancement Guarantee Scheme launched in 2016, headed by Indian Renewable Energy IREDA. Industries, renewable energy sector, clean energy, green energy, greenhouse effect, renewable energy asijibo tomoro solar, hydro, wind, biogas, and clean energy technologies asijibo electric vehicle charging stations and carbon footprint reduce kariya ପାଇଁ jete technologies, yeah, those come under that. So IREDA will provide you the credit enhancement by the way of unconditional and irrevocable credit guarantee. The credit guarantee jo diya haba taku irrevocable haba and that is unconditional. So, and to enhance the credit rating, and there is no time limit for it. So it is the best thing in this. Next slide, please. Okay, then the Startup India scheme is launched in 2016, headed by Small Industry Banks of India, industry agnostic, again for the financing sector. Composite loan between 10 lakh to 1%. Term loan and working capital. Rooftop, which is a booming sector in India right now and all the states. So launched in 2015, headed by IREDA again. And quantum of loan of IREDA shall be 70% of the project cost minimum problem amount. So it's like easily if there is a project जोटा कि 100 टंकार थिबो तो 70% 70 टंका आपन को लोन मिल जिवो इरेडा रु आपन को सेथरे 30 टंका दबा को पड़िबो दैट 30 टंका आपन निज पाखरे जो फंड अछि दे परंती दैट आपन बैंक रो लोन करि परंती और व्हाटएवर वे और आपन को इन्वेस्टमेंट आपन को कि आपन को प्रोजेक्ट रे इन्वेस्टमेंट भी करि पारे बट 70% आपन को इरेडा रे मिल जिवो जदी आपन को नॉर्मली जो एग्रीमेंट हुए दैट इज 21 to 25 इयर्स पर्यंत हुए तो प्रथम 12 वर्ष आपन को मोराटोरियम फ्री जोटा आपन को दबा को पड़िबनी और नेक्स्ट 9 वर्ष आपन को लोन दबा को पड़िबो सो दिस इज वन ऑफ द अमेजिंग एंड द बेस्ट स्कीम फॉर रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सोलर रे इटा छी बट हाइड्रो रे लास्ट वर्ष आसिला बट या सोलर रे 2016 में अछि देन ओके वी हैव आल्सो गुड स्कीम्स इन ओडिशा तो जोटा कि देयर इज अ डॉक्यूमेंट व्हिच इज लिंक तळे अछि तो ओडिशा गवर्नमेंट रो डॉक्यूमेंट अछि जोटा कि 2016 to 2020 पर्यंत स्टार्टअप स्कीम रे आसे तो ता भितरे पांचटा इंपोर्टेंट जिंस अछि मंथली अलाउंस नीड बेस्ड अलाउंस प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट मार्केटिंग पब्लिसिटी अलाउंस patent reimbursement government procurement so if you go to the policy and you read it through then you understand so based on your product and based on your startup business there is monthly allowance jota ki 20,000 per month you will be given period of 1 year need based allowance recognized as a startup entity tomar gote startup achi and seta startup boli ghosana karala, that it got announced as a startup. Then you get a need based allowance. Then product development and marketing publicity allowance. तमर जो गुटे product करछ तापे marketing करे को पड़िबो of course, and publicity करे को पड़िबो तापई भी ओडिसा government तुमको दउची allowance. Then the patent reimbursement, जदि if you have a patent and 100% patent registration color, then you will get maximum up to 10 lakhs rupees पर्यंत you will get. And government of procurement, 20% of the total procurement of state ministry, ये माने 20% procurement आपको करिवे, whatever your product is or whatever your service is. But all of these things are conditional. So if you go to the scheme of 2016-20 of Odisha, you will understand it is not as it looks, but there are terms and conditions to it. तो आपनकर product एमती हेतिबा दरकार, एति की वर्ष हेतिबा दरकार, ए टाइप रो business आपन थिबा दरकार, तो एति की आपनकर turnover हबा दरकार. So there are other things also important which is not mentioned here, but if you go to the link which is given below, then you will understand what are the things that will affect. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the thing that I just explained. Okay, so now it is interesting. Glimpse at popular startup sector-wise. Next slide, please, Supriya. Okay, so India रा popular startup जितने अच्छे हैं, बहुत sector से माने अच्छे हैं, financial, finance, fintech, finance sector रे अच्छे हैं, healthcare technology रे अच्छे हैं, logistic रे अच्छे हैं, enterprise रे अच्छे हैं, consumer services रे अच्छे हैं. Finance रे कोड अच्छे हैं, the online banking that we are doing for payment transfer, money transfer, like Google Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal, Paytm, Bhim UPI, PhonePe. So these are the startups which started some 5 to 6, 7, 8, 10 years back. And today, nobody, if you check anybody's phone, they will have at least 3 to 4 of this app. So now you can understand they started as a startup, but now they are ruling in the market. They are the boss of the market. So yes, and nobody is going to bank now because it is very handy doing it. So like that, healthcare technology, Care 24 Practo, Health 1 milligram, Dr. Insta. So what happens if you talk to them, you just book online consultancy for the doctor, and then you give a call and they will diagnose, or like virtual video call or in a app from the doctor virtually with the help of app. Otherwise aguru kon hotla apanku jiba ko portla, line lagya ko portla, ticket naba ko portla, tapre doctor dekutla rasti ho sakala ho, like there was no timing for it, right? But now there are apps, there are new startups who have come up with this idea. आपण माने से app को जिबे खोलिबे, को doctor को time you करिवे, और आपण direct आपनकर book हे जिवो. You can, and there is a choice that you can go to the doctor physically with that time slot, or you can call the doctor virtually, audio call or video call, depending on the symptoms you are having, and you can have a consultation for that. So another is logistics supply chain sector. Like delivery, for the instance, delivery, Flipkart, Amazon ro jo asuchi courier apanku, it is from the delivery service. So delivery has started. So जेतेको online अच्छी e-commerce रा से माने तारा packet delivery करचंती, even like Blue Dart and all. But startup strategy जेमती की delivery. Enterprise technology रे अच्छी आपनका Freshworks, Zoho, the ERP management and SaaS technologies. So they're basically to make the business more efficient, which is the technical side of the startup. The consumer services, we all know it and we all love it. Whether it's Zomato, Uber Eats, grocery delivery, Big Basket, and see, and do you understand how it goes? Like they have a complete startup with a different business model, and they have actually mitigated all the risk That is why these guys survived when there is a lockdown and nobody else survived. So if you see Zomato and everything, now no restaurant is open. Koई hotel restaurant open nahi. Still, people are getting food. How? Because you have Zomato and you have Swiggy, and they are able to do it because of one thing. First thing is their marketing, the way they did the marketing. Second thing is the legal partner they have, because they have hired the right person to have all these things. That is why they will never face any difficulty. Even if the situation is bad, they have a business model to come out and, you know, do the profitability to the business. So yes, please go ahead, Supriyo. Okay, so we skipped one slide, I guess. No,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Like Paytm, Ola, and like I said, delivery. So these are the most funded startup in 2019. Like in Paytm, it started in 2010, just with investment of 2 million. And in Noida, like where I am staying right now, and now see the last year they just raised 10 billion from the famous asset manager T Tower Price, and they're doing amazing. They're doing quite well. Even Tata is investing in Paytm. Then it's Ola, and you all know that Ola is in Odisha as well. So Ola in 2010 it started, and now they got investment from so many uh, investors and European investors. So, and they are into so many countries as well. And then delivery, I already explained you about delivery, and these are the India startups which started almost 9 to 10 years back, and now they are big companies. They're like big shots. So it is like now people cannot even think of living without these startups. They go somewhere, they go for Ola, they do some payment, they go for it Paytm, they send something, they go for delivery. So they have become the part of our life. Next slide, please. And okay, then again, it's as a First Cry, then again it's Grofers. We all know First Cry, 2010, and it started in 2010, and then it got SoftBank investment last year. Then it's Grofers, and you all have seen the advertisement in the TV. So yes, so this is what it is. So these are the top 5 startups, just for your information, who got funding. So what I'm saying, that being a startup is not enough. Being a startup and having all your financial and legal in place is very important, so that in future you will sustain and your business will grow to the next level, where people will not know you just in Odisha, but in India and abroad. Okay, now come to our state. So in Odisha, we have Threadsys Technologies, Lecture Notes, Skyrider Institutions. It all founded in last 5 years, 2015, 17, 19. And they're into cybersecurity, they're into education, they're into skill training. Then this Right Order, Metal Healthcare. Okay, and then Swargadora. I personally like this one, Swargadora, because it is really an amazing concept. See, this is how you have to be innovative and creative. See, everybody dies, and we all know that ଆମ ଘରେ କି କାର ଯଦି death ହେଇଯିବ ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ନେଇକି ସ୍ୱର୍ଗଦ୍ୱାର ଯିବୁ, but nobody has ever thought that you can actually convert it into a business, such a business which is not only business, but in some way you will also do some community service. You will also give service to the society. So it is very important factor. Uh, if you see any big company, whether it's Tata Group or it is Mahindra, they always say same thing. When you have a business, you do not have to think of money or profit. It has to be always connected with the service to society. If you are a company in Odisha, then you think of Odia people also. That if you're doing something for Odisha, for your own state, for your own people, you would be able to do it for your country as well. So it is not just business, it is how you connect to people and you will be able to build trust. So yes, Supriya, please next slide. Okay, so we can see these are the top startup companies in India. Okay, so these are the logos we have just kept for you so that you can have a look. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so and this top startup companies for Odisha. The next slide. Yes. So this is some like I explained you few. Okay, so now, okay, so now the cream of the presentation that we come for. Necessity of a lawyer for startup and enterprise. Like, why do we need lawyers? And why it is different? Like, okay, I'll give you an example. So it is like, okay, just see you do not have a lawyer. You start a business. You do everything on your own, and okay, you just have a lawyer as a consultant, and you think it is not important to have a lawyer. Then okay, if everything is fine, it is okay. If something goes wrong, if there is a dispute, if there is a conflict, if there is a problem in your company where you will face the problem not as in finance or profitability or reputation, but the legal aspect of it. What if jadi jane apananga nare case kartala? Like, what will you do? जड़े जदि आपन नारे कंप्लेंट कर देला, जदि आपनकर रेपुटेशन ऊपर किछि आसला, जदि आपनकर प्रोडक्ट ऊपर किछि आसला, how you are going to manage it? Have you ever understood Facebook ऊपर केते लोक माने केस करिसंदी for privacy thing, and still Facebook is working and everybody is using Facebook? Why? The only reason, Mark Zuckerberg said, the only reason that Facebook is still here today, if you all remember, Orkut thila Facebook purburu, right? I guess almost 9 years back, 8-9 years back. Orkut. No one is used. I don't think Orkut still exists. It doesn't exist anymore. That is the difference. He, why ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଏତେ ଜିନିଷ ହେଲା ପରେ ବି you still exist, you are still performing, and you have clients and customers, and where there are so many companies जो कि आगुरु ଥିଲେ, now we don't know them, now nobody remembers them. So having a good lawyer is the main point of your existence. It is a main point, having the existence of your company. If there is, you do not have a legal partner, there is a huge question mark on your sustainability factor, whether you will sustain, you will exist or not. You might not exist in future. So yes, so before choosing your business partner, you need to choose a good lawyer for your business. So yeah, that is very, very, very important. So, okay, Supriya, next slide, please. Okay, so why does a startup need a lawyer? Because one thing is you need so many agreements and documentation part before the incorporation of your company and post the incorporation of your company. Because you as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you are a subject matter expert for your product, for your business model, and what you want to do. But you are not a legal expert. So you need some guidance, some mentoring, and you need to know the legal aspects, because we are staying in Odisha, we are in India, जोठी प्रति 2 दिन रे पॉलिसीज चेंज हो जाउची, प्रति 3 दिन रे रेगुलेशन चेंज हो जाउची, प्रति 4 दिन रे लॉ चेंज हो जाउची. So it is very difficult to track all those things, and it will affect your business. खाली जदी environmental law change हेगला, it will affect you. खाली जदी taxation law change हेगला, it will affect you. So the thing is, you need someone who will tell you in advance. Jodi government aji declare kala ki gotte mas pare ye law change habar achi, then you need to start working till now, from now. Ki tamo legal advisor tamo kaiba ki at gotte mas pare eta habar achi, so you do this, you do that, so that you would be able to save your business and still manage your profits. So for pre-incorporation document, post-incorporation document, and all legalities, Supriya will explain you better. I think I'm already running over time, so I will just quickly take you. Supriya, next slide, please. Okay, so how to hire a lawyer for your startup? So there are 4 things you need to understand. Does the lawyer understand the startup business? Because I have personal experience with people who had hired a lawyer, and then the lawyer didn't have any experience into it, and then their startup didn't work just because of they had not done the proper due diligence for their startups. So it is very important, if you are associated with some lawyer, then you should know that if that person has the understanding of that business, if it is in e-commerce sector, or it is in power sector, or in water sector, or logistics, or healthcare. Then second thing is, if the lawyer has the experience dealing with startups. There are many lawyers who have experience with the corporates and big conglomerates, but they do not have the experience with the startups. So they see the broader view of the plan, business model, but they don't go to the nitty-gritty of it. But when it is about startup, you need to go to the nitty-gritty of the business. So where you need to understand, you need a lawyer who understands the nitty-gritty bits and pieces of startup. So third thing is, if he's the right person to handle legal issues or matters efficiently and effectively. Because like engineers, there are so many lawyers in India, but it is important to understand if they have the expertise and they are able to understand your business and provide you the right suggestion and opinion for it. If you go to a lawyer, but that lawyer doesn't have the expertise and not the right person for this, then you are in soup. So yes, it is very important to understand that he or she is the right person to advise you. And if you think there is a confusion, or if you think, or there is something confusion, or you are still not confirmed, then I would request you to recheck and reevaluate that if that person is the right person for you. And finally, is what is the payment structure? So you need to understand the payment structure of it when you hire a lawyer, and they charge hourly basis, and depends on the scope of work they have. And I understand Supriya would be able to give you more details about the payment structure, as he is the subject matter expert for it. So Supriya, next slide, please.
All right, Adhya, thank you. I'll take it forward from here. So,
okay, so I a lot of time, so now I'll go to Supriya to take it forward. Thank you.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, OCA, for this platform and to provide us an opportunity to enlighten the entrepreneurs to the legal intricacies that they would be facing. And generally, we see a person approaches a lawyer after a issue come up. Like, आमे देखियो आम सोसाइटी रे जनरली लोक आसंदी गोटे इश्यू आसिला परे, बट इट इज जनरली एडवाइजेबल टू अप्रोच ए लॉयर बिफोर इश्यू कम्स अप, and that person is a very smart person, and that person or an entity will be able to be successfully run that business, because the legal intricacies and the legal compliances will be handled by a separate person, that is a lawyer. And post 2014, the government schemes have changed in numerous forms, as you can see in the slide. In 2014, there was a lot of government intricacies involved, and it was very time consuming. But in 2018, post Modi ji's government scheme, startup scheme, it has exempted a lot of startups from procurement related stuff. And patent, to be precise, patent is something where a design and unique design is being prepared by an entity, and that unique design is being registered with the patent authority. That becomes a patent. For example, Kent RO has a patent how to purify the water. So that itself has got a patent. And if someone else is going to infringe that patent, then that would be a infringement of patent, and Kentaro can initiate intellectual property proceedings against the infringing entities. The next is income tax regulations has also changed to larger extent for startups. And previously there was a lot of compliances, but now post 2018, as per the start to comply with all the labor laws and going to comply with the environmental laws. In case it is generating in pollution and all, then it has to comply with all those stuff. Then last is the faster exit mechanism. Nowadays, most of the business come into the market, but they're not able to survive in the market because of a lot of issues. Maybe they're not able to understand the techniques, or else they didn't do the due diligence.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, does the government provide any legal assistance on the Startup India or Startup Odisha platform? Because I don't think so everybody will be able to afford a lawyer at the starting, because other things are there. So affording a regular lawyer through and through from the starting process is not very is possible for all the people.
Yeah, that is there, but government generally is not providing a legal assistance to an individual, because if you see the constitution, you have to protect your rights through yourself or else through a lawyer. Government generally provides an outline of what the scheme is, what how you are going to be protected. There is a specific website called Startup India, and in that they have an schemes that is proposed by every sector. For example, in textile sectors, there is a specific scheme. In regulatory sectors, for example, in environmental compliances or in renewable energy, which we already discussed, there are separate schemes. Apart from that, as this startup system covers under a concurrent list. If you see the constitution, there is a separate thing called state list, concurrent list, and central list. So this falls under both the categories. So the central government as well as the state government incentivize us to promote ourselves and to promote an idea of entrepreneurship, which is generally a trend which is being progressed post 2016, the post Startup India scheme. So to be precise and to answer your question, the government is not providing any legal assistance, but the government is facilitating and giving an outline of what all is a legal scheme and what is the outline behind that and how you will be able to achieve behind that. So that's all, ma'am. Hope this is clear to you.
So there is no platform, there is no assistant startups from the on the legal perspective. So you have to hire privately. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, you have to hire, but mentorship programs are there. That is on the basis of an technical expertise they can give. There's a mentorship program in Startup India. Yeah, mentorship programs are there. But for this, you have to definitely. That is, you're hiring a lawyer. That this is to protect your business. You're not doing. You're not doing it for someone else. You're just protecting your rights, your integrity, and your business. So this is a baby which is come into the steps. So therefore, you have to protect yourself and give an ozone layer so that it will be able to succeed in its coming years.
Okay, and one, I think Adyasha only said that you have to confirm about the whether the lawyer is this lawyer is the right person. So how do you do that? Is there any forum where there are specific startup lawyers?
So yeah, to answer that, lawyers are refrained from advertising themselves. So according to the Advocates Act, lawyers cannot advertise themselves. So it is the due diligence that the business entity or the sole person has to do on its own.
How will I know this person is good or bad?
Yeah. To answer that, if you want to know, then you have to see the past experience of the lawyer, whether he has handled simultaneous or parallelly, if he's handling in similar instance or that or not. And you can ask a profile of the lawyer, and the profile of the lawyer would be readily available to them. And basis that, you can make a call whether to approach the lawyer basis your requirements. And
there is no provision that there is a place where there is a data or something, a list of lawyers where
you are muted, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry. So there is no place where you can go and see, okay, there are 100 lawyers listed and you can pick and choose or call them.
You can, of course, Google provides an remedy to do that, but how authenticated is that is, of course, doubtful.
How?
So that call you have to take basis your business ideas and basis the requirement that the lawyer is going to provide and basis his past experience. Of course, one can boast about himself or herself that they have an experience, but what the industry is speaking and your call about who would be a preferred partner to provide you legal advice. And of course, the knowledge of industry and knowledge of law is also important. Now, previously, the law was specifically crystallized into civil and criminal, but the law practice has now evolved into multifarious level. So you have to first understand whether the lawyer is able to understand your business intricacies or not. If the lawyer is able to understand the business intricacies,
If I am doing a startup, see, my 99% of mind will be involved in running the business.
yeah,
And again, you are giving me a task to identifying a lawyer who is suitable for me. So for
that,
which I need a solution. So again, you are giving me a list of do's and don'ts. I want to know that how to know that this lawyer is good for me.
yeah,
Matlab,
that's
obviously, no lawyer will say, okay, I am a bad lawyer. I don't have an experience in this.
I totally get it. But yeah, of course, you have to consult on basis of a few parameters, which we have already discussed, like the past experience. And of course, it is going to be your call whether you have to choose a lawyer or not to choose a lawyer, whether you have to do all those things on your own. So this call you have to take on your own. You cannot avoid that, or else if you want to move on your own, then that element of risk, of course, steps in. And even
No, I'm saying I want to hire a lawyer.
yeah,
But I want to know whether that lawyer is good enough for me. So how we'll get it? Because I
that,
don't know. Matlab, that's what I'm asking you. So how? Because Adhyasha said, "Na, yeah, I have to confirm that this, yeah, I have to ensure whether this person is good enough for me." Obviously, that person is not going to tell me I am bad lawyer or I have handled. What are
I, I,
we?
tot-
So
I totally get that is what I'm saying. If you want to hire a lawyer, you have to consider his profile, whether he is that good basis his past experience and his preferred clients' comments and
So
preferred
I'll,
client choices.
I'll I'll ask you in a simple way. So there is a startup. There are hundreds of startups are there, and you must be coming across because you belong to OCF. So does OCF has a database where there are lawyers who help people?
Yeah,
So that's
OCF.
what I'm asking.
Yeah. To be precise and to answer that, OCF has a consultancy service providing a scheme through which OCF has a list of people from different categories, not lawyers, CAs, company secretaries, MBAs, and other specific persons. So you can approach OCF who will be able to help you, or else you can approach individual lawyers who can help you on that. But to be precise, ma'am, lawyers are not allowed to advertise themselves.
Again, I am on my own. I'm saying. So there is no place where there are advisors or there are people who will refer me to a person who is suitable enough
Yeah,
for my startup.
that then you have to approach few agencies, like for example OCF is one of the society, like in Odisha there are a few entities like Utkal Chambers of Commerce and Industries, North Odisha
Yeah,
Chambers of Commerce and
I'm
Industries.
asking. That's
you
what
can
I'm
approach
asking.
you can approach either of them, and they would be definitely having a list of persons
Yeah,
who
that's
could,
what I'm asking.
yeah,
So where is the reach out so that people can give me 10 names? Okay, these are the people who deal with the startup and you can choose.
yeah,
So then it's easier for me.
yeah, database would be available with any organizations where they would be having people from all the sector specific persons, and you can make a call basis their basis your requirement and basis basis the requirement which the business needs, and basis the experience of the lawyer. And you can, of course, you can have an engagement letter with the lawyer, uh, basis the scope of work that you are going to bestow upon the lawyer to complete and to hand over the work. And definitely a time period is always preferred to have with the lawyer to hand over that. And generally an engagement letter provides a right to you to ask a lawyer if that right will be protected within the time frame or not, and if there are any intricacies or not. So generally an engagement letter as signed by the clients and the attorneys, through which the rights of both the parties are facilitated and protected.
Okay, that's the process. That's the process. Okay.
All right, thank you. So in order to set up an enterprise or startup, generally in Orissa or in specifically in India, we need to consider a few factors which we have already discussed in our previous slides. But the structure of the business or enterprise is also to be taken into consideration. For example, we can set up a company, you can set up an LLP, you can set up a partnership form, or else you can set up a sole proprietorship, or else a cooperative society. The governing legislations behind that is already mentioned, and I am not going to discuss that in much detail. But you need to have a charter documents. Charter documents is the basic document through which that entity is established. For example, if you're establishing a company, you need to have a memorandum of association and articles of association. The memorandum of association will highlight you how the company is going to function in a manner and how the board of directors are going to run. And the articles of association will be there to give you an outline on the day-to-day functioning of the company. Similarly, the limited liability partnership form, it's a new concept emerged post 2008. So the liability of the partners are limited and it is a separate legal entity. So the individual person's liability is not stretched over to the LLPs. And similarly, then partnership form is also there. In partnership form, you need to have a partnership agreement, and the liability is also separate. And the specific person whom you need to approach is the registrar of firm. And separately for companies, you need to approach the registrar of companies. And for LLPs, you need to approach the registrar of companies for registration and other compliance related of related stuffs. When you compare to the sole proprietorship, it is nothing but you are only the sole proprietorship, and you are running the business on your own. There is no separate distinction between yourself and the business. And whenever a liability steps in, if the business is not able to suffice it, then out of your own pocket, by selling your land or your business, you have to pay off the liabilities. So the appropriate person would be the local labor officer, where you have to get a certificate that you are complying with the labor laws. And as compared to in cooperative societies, generally like people of 10 people come together and they register themselves under the Cooperative Societies Act through a bylaw and MOA. And this is generally preferred for very small businesses. Now, if you want to structure your business, you need to understand how big your business is and how creative and innovative your idea is. So for companies, it is generally advised if your turnover is higher than 5 crores, you can register as an one-person company where you will be the sole person. And if you are having more than 2 directors, then you can have 2-person companies. And for lesser than 5 crores to 2 crores, you can prefer in limited liability partnership. And for 2 to 5 crores, it's in limited liability partnership. But when it comes to government incentives, Ministry of Corporate Affairs and various sector specific incentives, for example, if you are setting up an textile, then Ministry of Textiles provides you incentive. When you register as a company, the incentives by the government manifoldly increases. But when you register in as an LLP or a partnership, basis your turnover, the government is going to scrutinize a few documents, and then only they are going to grant the benefits available on the incentive. So the basic distinction between an LLP and a partnership would be that. So partnership doesn't limit your liabilities, but LLP limits the liabilities of the partners. And of course, the minimum number of person who can register themselves as an LLP would be the 2-person, and maximum is not specifically restricted under the act. But when it comes to partnership, the maximum number of person would be the 2, and maximum number of person would be the 100. And as compared to a sole proprietorship, as you already might be knowing, this is preferred for the small businesses with a turnover less than 1 crore. And generally, no incentives are given by the government unless and until you are that specific person. For example, you can register as a sole proprietorship if you are having a shop for selling sweets also. For example, even day before yesterday, the government had changed its regulations and how a sweet seller is going to sell its sweets to an customer. ଆଉ କାଲିର ଯୋଉ ନ୍ୟୁଜରେ ଯାହା ଆପଣ ବି ପଢିଥିବେ ସେଇଠି ଆପଣ ଜାଣିପାରିବେ ସୁଇଟ୍ ସେଲର ବି ଗୋଟେ ଡେଟ୍ ଅଫ୍ ମ୍ୟାନୁଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଚରିଂ ଆଉ ଡେଟ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଏକ୍ସପାୟରି ବି ଆଜିକାଲି ରଖିବାକୁ ମ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡେଟରୀ କରୁଛି. If they are not able to do that, the government is going to cancel the licenses. So the sole proprietorship is generally preferred for businesses for less than 1 crore. But when it comes to cooperative societies, as people from 1 to 10% have to come, so the incentive from each person generally comes up together, and they contribute up to an amount, and basis that is already mentioned in their bylaw or in memorandum of association, and the incentives are coming basis the sector specific. Yeah. Next would be what are the mandatory agreements that are necessary for establishing a startup, whether it is an LLP, whether it is in partnership form, whether it's in company, or whether it's in cooperative society. So first of all, you need to have a due diligence report. Due diligence is nothing but an investigation uh, of your portfolio in the future coming years, whether you're going to be a successful person in the market, whether you're going to be an unsuccessful person. So due diligence are generally done by lawyers, the company secretaries, and the financial persons. So you need to approach a person who is able to understand your business and your business intricacies. If you're not able to, if a person is not able to understand that, in the due diligence report, the investigation report will not be able to not be giving you a proper clarity. So you will be in a different track. So it is always advisable to have a startup idea and to have a due diligence report. The next would be the co-founders agreement. So co-founders agreement is nothing but an agreement through which you are establishing something. So apart from LLP partnership agreement, you should have separately an co-founders agreement. So that should clearly, crystallizely examine the rights, the liabilities, and the funds that the startup is going to get through the founders. So it is whenever a conflict comes up between two founders, for example, kali amor dida startup ro ebe dijono partnership dijono misi kole au tanko vidare kono dispute asla. So there should be a way, there should be a strategy of way to exit out of the mechanism. So say co-founders agreement is going to protect those rights and give you a remedy out of that. Second is the shareholders agreement. Shareholders agreement is generally preferred only for shareholders of a company. It is not advisable for an LLP or in partnership or in anything. It is only restricted to a company where the shareholders are only the owners of the company. So they will have a separate shareholders agreement on how the shares are going to be managed by the company. Second is the business plan. As we've already discussed, the due diligence report should also crystallize a business template and a business plan. How your business is going to run, and how you are going to manage the funds, and how it is going to have an fourth idea about how it is going to be managed in the forthcoming years. The next is the product roadmap. Whenever you're manufacturing something or you are coming up with an innovation, it is generally advised to have some strategy and some innovation. As you might have studied in science also, our Darwin theory ame padithio, theory of evolution re गोटे प्रोडक्ट आज अच्छी कम से मार्केट रे आज सर्वाइव करि पारछि, कम से सी इज इक्विप्ड विथ द मार्केट. काली से मार्केट रे सर्वाइव करि पारुनी, कम बोले इज नॉट इक्विप्ड विथ द मार्केट. So it is necessary to first understand the market, necessity of customers, necessity of consumers, whether there would be a dispute in the supply chain, in the upstream supply chain, or else in the downstream supply chain. So you should have a clear idea about how your product, whenever it is going to be launched in the market, how it is going to be having outlined features, and whether there would be any defective services or defective problems. Then next would be the product sales plan. So you can always manufacture a product, but whenever it comes to sales, it is necessary to have a sales plan. So the sales plan comes in, you need to have an agreement specifically between a seller, purchaser, and an manufacturer. Even I was recently advising my client, who is also a participant here. He is Mr. Patel Subazar, Mr. Deepak Bhai Patel, who is a businessman in Gujarat. So even I was also advising him specifically that you need to have an agreement with your suppliers so that you can protect your rights whenever a default is made by the supplier or else by the salesperson, through which your rights are protected. And of course you can take it to court, or else you can settle it through arbitrations, or else in negotiation and settlement procedures. Second is the articles of association or bylaws. So articles of association would generally crystallize a way through which the company is going to run on a day-to-day basis. A similar way is also given for bylaws. Bylaws is going to have in rules and regulations and the principles of structure and how the society or else the partnership form or else the LLP is going to function. Second, next would be the employee agreement or HR policies. It is generally advisable to have an agreement with an employee. Even post September 2020, government has classed all the labor laws. In India, currently there are only 3 labor laws which are governed right now, which I'm going to discuss in my later point. But that labor laws now are mandating employers who are having more than 3 employers to have an employee agreement or an HR policies. Whenever you're hiring someone, you need to have an agreement with them how the employee is going to function and what is the process of payment to the employee, and how much would be the performance required, and what would be the manner in which the employee would be fired if he is not able to satisfy the requirements in the companies or policies, and would be the HR policies. HR policies would definitely include a lot of stuff, and out of which one would be the prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. Whenever you are having more than 3 people, and if it is more than 3 people as women, and total of 10 people in an enterprise or startup, you need to have a specific internal complaints committee for preventing any sexual harassment against women. And this is taken as very strict offense for every company, and if you're not complying with this laws, strict police action is being taken by the local authorities, as well as your companies might be blacklisted and you won't be able to run in a proper way in the market. The next would be the non-disclosure agreement. As the name itself suggests, you have an specific way through which you are going to function. For example, an non-disclosure agreement would protect your right that the company in which the way it functions, it should not be disclosed to someone other person who is a competitor in the market. For example, I am giving an example of 2 textile manufacturing companies. They have a different way of functioning in the market. One is able to survive in the market because of the way in which function, and this itself is going to be protected through a non-disclosure agreement. That means that every person who is employed in that company will not be able to disclose that any confidential information to outside. If he is disclosing that information to an outside person, then that would be a direct breach of the non-disclosure agreement, and you will be able to protect your rights only if there is a non-disclosure agreement executed between the parties. Next would be the customer agreement. So Consumer Protection Act 2019 has changed in manifold way, and it is generally advisable either through an have a customer agreement in the form of an notes or in the form of an templates. So it is always advisable to provide a strategy how the customer will be able to avail any remedy from you if there is any dispute or any intricacies. The next would be the performance report. You should every year, no doubt there would be a statutory audit or else in annual audit, but it is generally advised by the companies or the startups to have a performance report on the basis of every 6 months, so that they can streamline the strategy on the way they function, and through which they will be able to effectively function in a market. And the last would be the preliminary contracts with the vendors, suppliers, and bankers. At Utkal, we have been very effective in negotiating with our vendors and suppliers and bankers. For example, in bankers, the preferred option would be that they would be lending money at a higher rate of interest, and they are in the business of exploitation. So it is generally advisable to hire a lawyer to scrutinize each and every document, a loan agreement, and the supporting mortgage agreement, so that you will be able to be protected whenever a difficulty comes in. So this document is going to give you a right and a remedy whenever an issue comes up. Next would be the financing options available for a startup or an enterprise. Generally, financing option can be categorized into 2 types: in equity financing and debt financing. Equity financing is nothing but you have to sell your ownership of the firm or the company to someone else, through which you are able to generate revenue through private equity or venture capitalists or angel investors. So to be very clear and to say in a layman's term, private equity persons are individuals as well as the companies, where they are going to buy your stakes in the company or else buy the proportion of the share in a partnership form and an LLP. And they're going to step into the ownership of the company by providing an amount. So if you have an 50% ownership in the company, and if you want to get some money from a person, then you can structure that through an equity financing mechanism through private equity, and that person will take the ownership, and that it depends on the terms and clauses of the agreement whether that person would be individually involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company, or whether that person would be involved in the partial involvement of the company. It is generally crystallized, and that agreement is going to be very precise and concise. And this is generally advisable to have a lawyer to have these private equity agreements, and venture capitalists or angel investors. These angel investors are going to charge an exorbitant rate of interest, but they are not involved in the day-to-day functioning. So you can have an agreement with them, and they can take you can take off a loan, not a loan, but money from them, and you can sell your ownership from them. The next would be the debt financing mechanism. Debt financing mechanism is nothing but where you are borrowing money from someone or else individual or else bank, and you're paying it back with interest. So there are four mechanisms through which you can borrow money. Would be the external commercial borrowing, where commercial borrowing can be from India as well as from outsourcing from non-resident Indians or in other persons. Through for that, Foreign Exchange Management Act steps in, and the rules regulations behind is governed, and you are specifically asked to comply with those regulations. If you don't comply, then a lot of strict actions are taken by the RBI as well as the FEMA authorities. And next will be the loans from banks and financial institutions. Banks generally it depends on the sector specific that you are. For example, if you are in agriculture and rural economic sector, then it is advisable to approach NABARD. If you are in the finance sector, then you can approach either of the financial institutions and such as Muthoot or else SBI and all. So it is always advisable to see each and every clause in the loan agreement so that you have a clear idea about what is the portion of loan that the amount is that the bank or the financial institution is going to give you, and what would be the proportion of disbursal of the amount, and what would be the rate of interest, and what is the mortgage or the charge that has been created on the company, and whether you are going to give your intercorporate guarantees to the banks or not. And the next would be the credit guarantee trust for MSME sectors. So this MSME also provides if you are in the MSME sector, a credit guarantee mechanism is provided where you can avail loans from banks by providing an security, and payment related stuffs are related quite normal over here, and the banks don't charge an exorbitant rate because the government has a policy to incentivize the MSME sector and to promote the MSME sector. The next would be the initial public offering. This is only for listed entities. If you are having a company which is listed in the stock exchange, for example, in the Bombay Stock Exchange or else in the National Stock Exchange for Indian entities. If you are in abroad entities, you can have register yourself in New York Stock Exchange or else Korean Stock Exchange in any specific country that you're going to take place. And through that, you can put up an initial public offering, and through which the public is going to contribute the money, and there would be a specific rate of interest that would be charged, and the payment terms would also be crystallized in that IP agreement. If you're not complying with that, we have a regulator called Security Exchange Board of India, and SEBI is going to penalize you for not complying that. The best example I could give for not complying to an IPO listing would be Sahara. Sahara in 2012 had initiated an initial public offering, but they didn't comply to the SEBI regulations, for which Subrata Roy has defaulted a lot of amounts, and now he's in jail, but currently he's in bail because of his payment of terms. Next would be compliance of various statutory laws. A lot of laws are governed for an startup. So it is always advisable to know which sector and which specific industry that you are going to comply. For example, if you are having an manufacturing unit, you need to have an environmental compliance from an authority so that you comply with the emission and discharge of waste. This is advisable for someone, for example, who is manufacturing a transformer, or else all those entities which are in the Khurda range where they manufacture something. So it is always advisable to comply with the BS4 norms and discharge of waste compliances. And if you are manufacturing something electronically, then it should have a disposal of e-waste mechanism. Disposal of e-waste rules should be there in the specific entity, and you should also put up in your offices how the disposal of e-waste is managed by the company. Of course, it is going to cost a few amount to the startup or enterprise in the beginning, but you cannot avoid this law because you have to comply with it, because if you don't comply with it, there are adverse repercussions against your enterprise where you are going to have an defamation related stuff, and you are going to have a lot of stuff. So for example, the recent would be in even Adani and Adani Power Limited, they didn't comply with a lot of environmental regulations. So therefore, National Green Tribunal had imposed a penalty of 150 crores upon them. So it is advisable to comply with all the environmental regulations and environmental statutes. So you need to have an approval from authorities about your emission content, about the carbon emission, and the oxygen emission that you generally prefer. And last would be the noise pollution. If you are having an industrial zone, then that is fine. If you are having in a normal zone, then you should get an authority from the BMC, approval from the BMC, where they are going to authorize you for complying with the where they are going to certify that you are not complying, where you are not violating any noise related pollution stuff. Next would be labeling and packaging rules. So whenever you are manufacturing something, so you need to have an you need to comply with 3 specific laws. It all depends on what sector you are going to into play. For example, Legal Metrology Act, it gives an outline on how much would be the preferred way through which the stickers and the paint should be preferred in the packaging products. Then next would be the Food and Safety Standards Act 2006. So this is for only for the people who are manufacturing something as from food items like Haldirams, or else we have Ruchi as our local entity in Orissa. They have to comply with Food Safety and Standards Act. If you are not complying with that, there is an imprisonment of 2 years and penalty of depends upon the offense that has been committed by the entity. And if the individual person is involved in not complying with the regulations or the statute, then they may be imprisoned, and they are also voluntarily personally liable for those acts. Last would be the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. To my research and to my understanding, there are approximately 500 drugs uh, uh, manufacturing plants in Orissa. Drug as in not the drugs that cooking people take, but it is the drugs as in the medicines that people are going to take whenever there is an illness. So you need to comply with the Drugs and Cosmetics Act about its packaging, about its size of the product, the composition of the product, the texture of the product, and what else. And the last would be the strategies for exploitation of IPR for startups. And as I have already advised a lot of clients on that, and startups also, you should have an innovation on that, and you should always register yourself as an enterprise. For example, to give a trademark is nothing but a mark through which a person trades. You see, Google has a G symbol, so that is a trademark of Google. If someone is infringing that part, then Google can initiate intellectual property proceedings against Google, and through that trademark, company is going to generate a lot of revenue from a lot of people. And next would be copyright. Copyright is a specific way through which, for example, the registration of copyright is not mandatory, but copyright is nothing but a person who has an innovative thought, idea, or perception. It is required the person has to register themselves with the registrar of copyrights. And to give an example, for the textile industries, the way in which Barampur Gamuchas, or else in Sambalpuri saris, no doubt they have an specific way they are manufacturing, that is a geographical indication, but the way they are manufacturing, the design, texture, and all, they need to register themselves under the register Copyrights Act, so that their rights are protected. Next to the designs, as I've already discussed, like designs are always preferred to have whenever you are manufacturing something, like the syntax that we manufacture, or else the RO water plants that we manufacture. Next would be the trade secrets. To illustrate further on this, you might have definitely gone to McDonald's and KFC. So they have a very secret mechanism through which they cook their food, and that is generally not disclosed to anyone. So you need to have an confidentiality agreement and trade secret agreement with all your employers, as well as all the persons registered in the company too, so that the other person is not disclosing that trade secret to anyone else. And last would be the patents. As I've already discussed, patents are a design, and you need to register themselves as in patents on the Patents Act, so that you can have your business, and you can restrict another person when he's going to enter into the market by infringing your products. So if you register these products, it is going to cost a few amount, but the amount of generation through which the IP amount you are going to generate is that IP license agreement. For example, you have a copyright or a trademark over something, you can license that to some other person to manufacture that, or else to supply that. Basis that they can set up a regional office or local office in a particular place, and by that way they will be giving you a contributory amount, and that would be a luxury amount to you. एटा किछि भी न कले लाइसेंस एग्रीमेंट रे पैसाटा आपन पळे आसे सो स्टार्टअप्स को जनरली एडवाइस करा जाए कि इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट टा ओडे तांगर प्रायोरिटी रखा जो प्रोटेक्शन पय एंड there should be they should implement their effective policies, IPR policies in their startups, so that in case where there is an infringement of the intellectual property rights, they can initiate legal actions against the infringer and the rights are always protected. Next would be the cyberspace startups. आम ओडिशा रे कंपैरिजन रे देखियो बोले आम स्टार्टअप्स जो साइबर स्पेस स्टार्टअप्स इज नथिंग बट फ्लिपकार्ट Amazon, बट ओडिशा रे भी के जण स्टार्टअप अछंदी, दे आर सेलिंग like prawns and textiles through their website. So you need to have an website and you need to register yourself under the Information Technology and intermediary rules through which your rights are protected. And e-commerce entities treated differently, totally differently from other manufacturers, wholesalers, traders, and single brand retailers. And e-commerce entities can be divided into majorly two classes, where one would be the business to consumer marketplace model, such as Amazon, Flipkart, and all. Business to business market would be the inventory based model, such as Alibaba and other sort of, where they are going to supply only to the business scene, not to the consumer section. So it is always advisable to have an founders agreement crystallizing about what sort of market intermediary that you are going to place. And आपण भी जानी थी फेसबुक सहित बहुत केस होची, ट्विटर सहित बहुत एफआईआर रजिस्टर होची, बट आमर 2008 पर आमर इंटरमीडिएट रूल्स अछि इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट रे. इंटरमीडिएट इज नथिंग बट you are in facilitator for the transaction between a business to business model or else in business to consumer model. So apanor liability ta crystallize he hochi, apano jodi actively involved nanti se jaga re, then intermediaries are exempted from their liabilities, and they are also penal actions are also not taken against them. आम कंपैरिजन रे आपण देखियो ले इंटरमीडिएरी जो माने थाउजंदी, जो इंटरमीडिएरी मींस द वेबसाइट्स थ्रू व्हिच दे फंक्शन, and a place where you are having a physical goods and physical stuffs. The cost and benefit analysis for an intermediary as compared to a physical location, the best possible way to have an registration would be the intermediaries, because आपनर cost टा पूरा minimal रहला, आपनर किछि cost रहला नि, सब web based रे काम चला, as compared to an आपनर जदी ओडे physical location रहला, then you have to bear the allowances, for example the electricity cost, rental cost, and all those stuff. So we generally advise for a startup who is having less than a crore to have an intermediaries, unless and until that person, that entity is manufacturing something or else in the business of single trade or wholesale traders. They can register themselves and they can set up a website, and basis that domain name they can generate a revenue. Of course, you have to comply with the Information Technology Act in length, so that there is no infringement of any of your rights, and no one else is also infringing your rights. ମୁଁ आगुरु कहूଥିଲି ଆମର 2020 रे, सेप्टेम्बर 2020 रे ଆମର सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट through the assent of the president 48 labor laws are repealed, and now majorly 3 central legislations are covering. And basis this central legislation ଆମ ओडिसा रे एवे जाय किछि specific law आसिनी एवे जाय. So as of now we need to comply only with 3 laws. As and when something comes up, of course you can approach your lawyer, so they will be better advise you on what are the statutory state rules for complying with the labor segment. One is the code on social security. The object and purpose behind this code on social security is that a security is being given to the employees, where they are able to protect themselves in case of any disruptions. And this is generally preferred for organized sectors as well as unorganized sectors. And this provides a security mechanism. For example, you have to give gratitude to the employers, and you have to give benefit to the employers, such as sick leaves and all those benefits. And in case an female employee is there, you have to protect the rights from the Harassment Act. You have to provide them maternity leaves, and in case of course in India paternity leave is nowhere granted so far, but it all depends on the HR policies, human resources policies of the individual company, whether to have it or not have it. But it is advisable to have a paternity leave for minimal amount of days. The next is code on occupational safety, health, and working conditions. आम आगे जो लेबर लेजिस्लेशन थिला पाखापाखि 48 लेबर लेजिस्लेशन जो थिला बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेशंस क्रिएट करूला, through which the company were running to every authority to get an approval or get certification. Matro ajiro date re sobo labor law simplify heji, and that has been amalgamated to only one labor law, that is occupational safety and health working conditions. As you might have known that through this name only, you might have known that it provides in safety, health, and working condition. For example, what are the minimal amount of work that would be preferred in an unorganized sector, and what is the incentive that the company is going to give when the person is doing overtime, and what are the affiliations that the company has to get for setting up the startup. As of now, startup re self certification startup India website re kari dele hey hoji. Matra jodi apanor company 7 years old hechi, you have to get an certificate from the labor officer, local labor officer. Last would be the industrial relations code. It is nothing but am upstream market employer rojoni, employee rojoni, outside person joman rojoni. So seman को simplify करी गोटे जगह रखा है industrial relations. So in case kali jodi kon dispute asila or kisi protection of issues asila, then the employee or is the employer can of course get an remedy through arbitrations basis the agreement, or else it is advisable to approach the industrial tribunal so that the disputes are resolved amicably. But of course, it is advisable to have a conciliation procedure of the HR policy so that the dispute is settled prior on, then approaching in labor code, because upon labor code jibe bole upon reputation or image we both matter kore, and through that upon sales we effect he pare. So it is advisable to resolve that amicably through conciliation or mediation procedure. Upon mediation procedure upon lawyer roila upon roile, and through that you can effectively communicate to the lawyer what are the issues that, and a middle point is generally being arrived so that no issues are coming up. From our experience in handling startups and enterprises, we generally advise clients on a number of aspects, but to give a very specific 10-pointer tips to the enterprise or startups, you should always have an first would be the lack of ability to capture the last dollar. Your objective should always be to incentivize the employees, and the employees are only going to generate revenue. If your employees are not happy and not satisfied, they will not be able to perform their job, and you are going to have an adverse repercussion. So your always objective should be to capture the last dollar that has to be taken out from the market, and so that your business is running effectively. And funding arrangements are also essential. For example, आमे जो कहूतले कि loan agreement, knowledge जदि so private equity agreements are always advisable to have an clause by clause analysis through a lawyer, so that the lawyer gives you an opinion on every clause. So what are the advantages of yours and what are the advantages of the other side, so that you can scrutinize them and you can examine each of the questions. Yeah. Hi Nivedita. Hi Nivedita. I saw your text. I'll text you my contact number in the group, and I'll give you my email ID also. You can approach me. And next would be you should always be aware of your employee cost, because आपण जानी परिवेनी हमरो कोविड सिचुएशन रे इमेरी जदी सडन इमरजेंसी आसिला आपण एम्प्लॉय मानो कॉस्ट बॉडी गला, and it generally adds up, and आपण এটা avoid करियो पड़ियो. So basis your requirements only you need to hire your employees. You are not having in requirement, you unnecessarily hire your employees, then you would be losing your revenue. मोर गोटे example दोची last 2 weeks तळे गोटे employee आसिले मो पाकू. They told me specifically that कि आजिरो coronavirus situation रे they are not able to pay the rent. What are the remedy available to them? So तांकर गोटे rent agreement थिला fortunately, and the rent agreement रे गोटे specific clause थिला force majeure clause. So force majeure clause रे they, through that force majeure clause they were able to avoid a payment of approximately 30 into 9 months would be 2,70,000 because their agreement is crystallized thila, and of course through our chambers we had effectively advised them. So you should always be aware of the funding arrangement agreements between each other, and you should always also understand the governance behind your structure. आपनर governance जदि भले कि रोनी employee माने रही पारुनानी आपन पाखरे, तो सब unnecessary issues आसियो, and आपनर गोटे bad name भी आसी पारे market रे. तो ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ଗଭର୍ନେନ୍ସ ମେକାନିଜମ ରହିବା କଥା ବିଟୱିନ୍ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟର ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟୀ ଯଦି ଆପଣ କର୍ପୋରେଟ ଅଛନ୍ତି ବୋଲେ କର୍ପୋରେଟ ଗଭର୍ନେନ୍ସ ରଖିବା କଥା ବିଟୱିନ୍ ଆଡମିନିଷ୍ଟ୍ରେଟର ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ରେଗୁଲେଟର next would be the exit strategies ଆମର comparison ରେ insolvency ଆଉ bankruptcy code 2016 ଆସିଛି ଆମର insolvency bankruptcy code ରେ provides a mechanism for the companies LLPs and partnership firms to come out in case you become an insolvent or bankrupt. You have to make an application before the National Company Law Tribunals or else before the Debt Recovery Tribunal, so that you can pay off whatever the amount that you have to the creditors and the lenders. And if you're not able to discharge the liabilities, then you won't be personally or individually liable for anything, but the creditors would be at the risk. For example, ଆମର ଏବେ जो recent crisis ନେବେ ଆମେ ଅନିଲ ଅମ୍ବାନୀଙ୍କ crisis ଟା जो ଦେଖିବା, ଅନିଲ ଅମ୍ବାନୀ defaulted approximately 15,000 crores to 3 Chinese banks by giving his own personal guarantee. So ଏବେ ସେଟା ଲଣ୍ଡନ ରେ ସେ କେସ୍ ଚାଲିଛି. So she is not able to escape out from that. But ମାତ୍ର ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଏଣ୍ଟିଟି ଅଛନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କର ଅନିଲ ଅମ୍ବାନୀଙ୍କର ରିଲାଏନ୍ସ ନାଭେଲ ନହେଲେ ରିଲାଏନ୍ସ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସ ଯୋଉ ଅଛି, so ସେଟା ସବୁ ପ୍ରୋସିଡିଂସ ତାଙ୍କର ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଲ ଟ୍ରାଇବୁନାଲ ରେ ଇନିସିଏଟ ହେଇଛି. ଆଉ basis that they are able to survive in the process. And next would be business fall jodi asuji apana pakhare, so you should have a backup plan always. What are the potential remedy that you are going to avail? If either you can avail a loan to pay off that amount, or else you can come out out of the way, so that you are not having any issues. Next is asila amaro prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. It would a specific part generally employee manu cover kariya padibo. As Adhyasa is a female, so she generally is also a part of various internal complaints committee. So I would invite Adhyasa to cover this slide and to take up the session forward.
Thanks, Supriyo. Everything was very informative, and I hope audience enjoyed it. Okay, so we know we are a bit delayed, so just bear with me for 5 to 10 minutes, and we will quickly finish this. Okay, so prevention of sexual harassment. Okay, so it's a बहुत important aspect of a person's life, and when it's about job and being a woman and being a person, I think it has to be, people should be aware of this thing. And normally we ignore it. Amako kichi farak padeni normally, unless it happens with us or somebody, with someone whom we know. So I'll just take you through it. The sexual harassment is an offensive behavior that can be considered as harassment. The statutory regulations and legal background of harassment, and it identifies the effect of sexual harassment has on people, and how can you recognize that it is a sexual harassment of any type. So, and then the implementation of ways of handling claims of sexual harassment, how we can handle it if we face ourselves or anybody in the company. Explain your role as a supervisor, how being a supervisor you can prevent it, or you can address it. And internal complaints committee, what is the purpose of that committee? Next slide please, Supriyo. Okay, so 4 groups of sexual harassment. It can be of 4 types. One is verbal, jodi apano kichi kahuchanti tale eta hei paribo. Visual, written and physical. Mu kahibi mu gote example debi just. Verbal me like apankar gote company achi and there is an employee, or say employee au gote woman employee ku compliment dauchi, that woman is looking good. So apan jodi kahibe yes you are looking good and this nice outfit is nice, then it's good. But agar apan tanku kahuchanti jodi like no you are looking hot or you are looking sexy, if you are using this kind of verbal languages, then it would be a sexual harassment, because it is making that person awkward and it is offensive to that woman. Visual, जदि आपण काहाकू 5 मिनिट 5 सेकंड टू 10 सेकंड 15 सेकंड देखुचंती, then it is looking at the person. But if you are looking at a person more than 15 seconds, then it is staring at a person, which the person might not be comfortable. आमको कहा को भी जदि के देखे it is not a matter of you if you are a woman of or you are a man जदि जन को किए 15 सेकंड रो अधिक भी देखिला it really feels awkward, right? I think everybody of us will agree. So that is a visual. Written जदि आपण का को लेखि किछि दउचती which is offensive to the person and which has a sexual aspect to it, by message हो by mail हो या जेमिति भी हो आपण मे भी भाबुथिबे कि नो एटा तो बहुत कैजुअल सी तो मोर सांग भलिया बट देयर इज अ लिमिट, राइट? जदि जे आपनकर सांग कि आपनकर कलीग देन यू नो द लाइन वेयर यू शुड नॉट क्रॉस. देयर इज अ लाइन फॉर एवरीथिंग. जदि आपन जने सांग अछि आपन त सहित कॉफी पिया को जाई पारंती बट आपण कोनोसी बिहेवियर या कोनोसी आपनकर मैनर एमती हबा कथा नो जोटा कि ताको बहुत ऑकवर्ड फील करेबो. And fourth is physical. So physical, we all know if somebody is touching you inappropriately या जदि जने आपनकर फायदा नबा को चाहूची फिजिकली तो जने जन को आपण जने आपन ऊपर एनफोर्स करची निज को that would be physical. So these are the four aspects जोटा कि sexual harassment रे कवर होबो. Next slide please. So an organization plan for eliminating sexual harassment. How? Review your behavior and that of others for evidence of illegal and impermissible conduct. So jete bele apna kaha ko kahanti ki eta sexual harassment, the first thing is तार behavior देखा जाए कि सी आपण को प्रति केमती से अन्य जते को फीमेल एम्प्लॉइज अछंती तांको प्रति केमती तार behavior केमती तार attitude केमती तार way of talking केमती, is it offensive or is it of any sexual kind of. So yes, so that matters. Then you have to be very careful and khas importantly I'm talking to the man, I'm talking to the men जो पुआ माने अछंती as an audience कि आपण जते बेले कहा को फीमेल प्रति बिहेव करूचंती आपण को कथा कहूचंती या किछि दर्शौचंती तो आपण बहुत केयरफुल रहिबे कि मे बी आपण को पई सेटा बहुत कैजुअल हेथिबो, मे बी आपण ताको संग भाबुथिबे कि कलीग भाबुथिबे कि से आपण टू बहुत छोटो थिबो तो आपण को मे बी न लागि पारे बट ता पई एटा ऑफेंसिव हेई पारे, ता पई सेटा ओडे सेक्सुअल एक्ट हेई पारे. So you have to be very careful जते बेले आपण का सहित कथा होचंती या जते बेले आपण का किछि कॉम्प्लीमेंट दोचंती कि किछि करूचंती, you should use the right words. When such behavior is identified, ask this question: is the appropriate conduct or behavior in the workplace, is it legal, is it permissible, is it proper, could the behavior anyway seen be discriminatory, could the behavior have a disruptive effect upon an employer. Even जदि आपण को किए जेंडर ऊपर भी कहूची कि आपण को जदि कि कलर ऊपर भी कहूची, that is not appropriate, that is racist, that is not appropriate. So it is always a responsibility of a gentleman to talk to a woman and respect a woman by all means. It doesn't matter she is your sister or colleague or subordinate or mother or wife, anybody, but when you speak to a woman, speak respectfully and you should know your limit, which you should never cross. Next slide, please. Supriyo?
Yeah, next slide.
So now we come to the final one is office location. So we in Utkal Chambers, we have office location at 5 places, but in 4 states, Delhi, Mumbai, we have in Chennai and Odisha. And in Odisha, we have all in Cuttack and in Bhubaneswar. So we have locations, and I will just take 2 minutes of yours just to make you understand Utkal Chambers, that our company and what we do. And here I'll like to address the question of Ashashwi as well. So yeah, Ashashwi, you and Supriyo were interacting, so I didn't interfere. I hope you are still in the part of audience. So Ashashwi, jodi movie gote entrepreneur hei thanti, more bhi startup thanta, and your question is very very valid. कि मते भी से question आसी थांता कि how would I know कि जने भलो lawyer हेथिबो, से मते ठकी भी दे परिबो, मोटो पैसा भी नै परिबो, मते ठीक तरह solution भी दे परिबोनी. And it is very important, and I'm so happy, I'm so glad that you asked that question. So the first thing is, ଯେତେବେଳେ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ସୁପ୍ରିୟ ଆମେ collaborate କଲୁ for Utkal Chambers, we knew के ଆମର past experience रे के केवल lawyer हबा and legal solution दबा is not enough, but it is very important कि आपण technicality केते देखुचंती से business रो, कि को type रो business से business रो demand कोन, customer कोन चाहूची, आउ खास करी कि owner रो को जगह रे problem होची, both commercially, legally and technically. That is why we actually collaborated. कारण आमे जानिलु कि legal solution सहित गोटे lawyer आउरी बहुत किसी solution दे परिबो. Might be गोटे lawyer तमटु गोटे कोटी नेला, but that lawyer would be able to save your 30 crores in the business. So it is very important जेतेबेले you go to a lawyer, you should see कि तार legal expertise सहित तार केते technical expertise अछि. सी जो इंडस्ट्री रे काम करछि सेटा केते इंडस्ट्री रे से काम करछि, केते लोकन को सहित काम करछि, केते डाइवर्सिफाइड पोर्टफोलियो रे काम करछि. जेंति कि सुप्रिय कहले कि you if you see the CV of the lawyer, you would be able to understand that. And it is really you need to know कि तमे जो फर्म को जाउछो, तमे जो लॉयर को जाउछो, तार एम्प्लॉइज माने केमती, ताकर कोन एक्सपर्टाइज, केते वर्ष हेलानी से माने काम करछन्ती, को इंडस्ट्री रे काम करछन्ती. And believe me Ashashri, when you talk to the right lawyer, you would know that that person is the right lawyer. कारण गोटे right lawyer रो सबु बेले सेटा ही थाए determination के how it will contribute to your company. It is not just your company where you are doing a teamwork. It is our company. Like if Supriyo is a lawyer for you, then it is the company of all of us. It is not just your company. We are legal partners for you. So it is very important, and you would know when you talk to them, the way they speak, the way they behave, the attitude they have, and the experience, the way they explain you, you would know by the professionalism that how good the lawyers are. And I hope and I feel quite proud to say that in Odisha, we have a legal firm like Utkal Chambers, which has a very diversified portfolio of lawyers and technical people. And they deal with dispute resolution, arbitration, they deal with regulatory litigation, they deal with intellectual property and cyber laws, they deal with real estate, they deal with white collar investigations, corporate secretarial compliances, employment labor laws, and private equity and merger acquisition. So everything you would find at one place. And what I know that you really need to look for those aspects, those personality traits in a lawyer. So whether you are a businessman or a lawyer, but it is very important to be a good human being first. Like I said, everything profession comes second. So if there is a good person, then that person can help you in grow your business and save your money. And you would know when you talk to that person. So yeah, so I think this is all from my side. And if you have any questions, please write to us. And we have given mails, or you can get it from Mr. Anil or Mr. Behera. And Supriyo is already there in Bhubaneswar. You can visit him anytime you want. He is always available. He's just a call away. So this is his profile, and we are here for you. That's what I'm saying. And being Odia people, we have personal affinity to Odisha and Odia people, of course. So yes, we are there for you always to help you in anything, any areas you want. And if you have any questions, please write to us. And I don't know if we have time to address all the questions, or we can address it by email. And thank you so much. Thanks for bearing with us. I know it's a holiday. It's a happy Gandhi Jayanti to you all. So, and yes, we understand that this is a problem in Odisha, that people are finding difficulty to approach lawyers who are into startups. That is why this initiative started, where we can reach to people as many as possible. So thank you so much. And all I wish you all are safe and good in health. Please take care of yourself. It's not a good time, and Odisha now the cases are rising too. So, yes, take care of yourself, and thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, OCA, for this session. And if Bhairav is there, I think we can take it up further for the closing, or else we can move on. Thank you.
Mr. Supriya Babu, many thanks. It's a great enlightenment. And Adyasa also, all your queries, questions are wonderful and a great experience for all participants, those are attending here. It's a beginning of our journey. Definitely, this idea is a great. Lot of eye-opening practicability for entrepreneurs is also innovations. Whatever you explained, really for me, being a senior man, lot of things I have to learn from you. And Adyas also explained everything in details. Only we are beginner. We are getting a lot of entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs journey is a long time. It is not a one day, everything can be taught. It is a long journey to go. And really, on behalf of the Odisha Corporate Foundation, I congratulate you. Thanks to you and your team who supported. And thanks to my participants, those who are entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs are there. I have seen. They must have learned. Any question from the entrepreneur, can you give some time to them? In case, Supriya Babu.
Sure, sir. We can.
Any entrepreneur can speak, please. It's a very eye-opener for all of us to know the legal complications, legal aspects of the any entrepreneur, please.
Sir, Nivetha here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Supriya and Adyasa, many thanks. Actually, I stay in USA and we run a small e-commerce firm from Odisha, promoting Odisha textiles and all that. But I would say it is really a big pain when your chartered accountant or somebody doesn't know what to do. So you keep paying GST and you keep paying, and there is, I think right now the situation, that's the whole reason I asked for your contact number. If you have more experience on the e-commerce side, what the legalities needs to be taken care, then as soon I will be connecting, because right now we are just paying GST, and anything we are getting stuck in the business, it is all inquiries personally that I get, and then I ask the chartered accountant, can you do that? That's how we are doing. Even if we are a startup, we are not again in system, in paperwork, we are not a startup. Even if we are woman entrepreneur, we are not, we are self-proclaimed, I would say, nothing in paperwork, because we don't get those guidance from the legal team or the chartered accountant team. So this was a very informative and very well presentation you both gave. And rather than question, I have a lot of question, and rather I would need a lot of help from you. So if it is e-commerce side, I will soon connect to you rather, because
we have been facilitating a few e-commerce platforms. Those are registered entities in India. In case if you are registered in India, you can proceed further, or else if you are registered in USA, then the governing law would be changing. You can register yourself as a subsidiary or else an separate entity in India, so that you can operate and effectively function in India. With, of course, you need to have a registered office and place of business for that. In case you don't have that, we can
no, it is there. It is a private limited company established in Odisha, in Bhubaneswar. So it is there, part of India. So I coordinate a lot of work. It has been a couple of years, but there is a lot of thing that is missing in my system, which I need a really good consulting person to let us know what to do and what not from the legal perspective.
Even liability of intermediaries and compliance of intermediaries are very restricted to as compared to a physical location office. So in case it is in startup with very less people or else very less resources, we generally advise people to have an intermediary based transaction, so that they can facilitate and save cost on the basis the business they do. And the governing legislation is quite simple over here. No doubt, IT Act is not quite covered, but we have in separate rules for intermediary rules. So we need to comply with that intermediary rules. And if you comply that, apart from that, the tax aspect and in Utkal, we do a full service aspect of every of our clients, not only a sector specific aspect. So you can approach us in case you require any sort of legal assistance from our side.
Yeah, thank you. I'll reach out soon, actually.
Any entrepreneur, please, any participant ask questions, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Hrishikesh, sir, for this opportunity, and thank you, Aditya sir and Supriya. It was a really good session. बहुत बढ़िया लगला. आपन को किसी queries थेला. हम माने entrepreneurship field रे already किसी दिन आगु अछु. आउ किछि दुईटा रो तीनटा entrepreneurial startup fail है जेटा फोर्थ राउंड चलछि. बहुत जगह रे हमको क्वेरी जैसे कि हमें किसी जगह फंडिंग पार्ट में पार्टिसिपेट करू. तो बहुत जगह हमें देखो बहुत स्टार्टअप एंटरप्रेन्योर आस्ते सर मोर को-फाउंडर रो बापा और मां बापांगर 50% मांगर 50%. गोटे तो स्टार्टअप अछि से कहला सर 99% मोर और 1% मो सांगर. तो एई सब सर आपण माने एड्रेस टे करन तो बेटर हो.
सर एटा जनरली हमरो जो फाउंडर्स एग्रीमेंट मु जो कोनली सर गोटे टाइम आगुरु तो से फाउंडर्स एग्रीमेंट रे इट हैज टू बी क्रिस्टलाइज. हमें एटा जनरली गोटे क्लाइंट रो प्रिफर्ड चॉइस थाए. आपण
इन्वेस्टमेंट जेतले लीगलिटी आपण हम देखु मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इन्वेस्टर्स कोन इवन लीगलिटी मान को 70-30 होवा दरकार.
yes I am coming
बहुत को जानि ना इन्वेस्टर आछन इन्वेस्टर बैकआउट करी होछन.
हां से टाइम
ये क्या है, ये क्या घर का खेती चल रहा है. सॉरी फॉर द वर्ड्स.
आपण जानि आपण एबे जानि थिए हमर टाटा आउ मिस्त्री मानंगर गोटे जॉइंट वेंचर एग्रीमेंट हेदिला हला. तो एबे टाटा मिस्त्री रे मिस्त्री हैड माइनॉरिटी शेयर्स एज कंपेयर्ड टू टाटा ग्रुप बुझले ना. तो सिमित ही हमर गोटे स्टार्टअप एंटरप्रेन्योर नबा बोले गोटे 90% रोइला गोटे 10% आउटे लोक रोइला. तो देयर इज एन हायर प्रोबेबिलिटी दैट पर्सन एक्स हु इज ओनिंग 90% विल बी हैविंग एन इन्फ्लुएंस ओवर द एंटायर एंटिटी बुझले ना. and why ro influence kichi na market re to seti pai bankers or else financial institution will be refraining themselves from funding because ai re ankar corporate governance firstly properly nai. तो हमरो बोर्ड रे गवर्नेंस ता इक्वली थिले नले एटलीस्ट पार्शियली इक्विवेलेंट रहय पड़ियो 60-40 50-50 नले 70-30 is less preferred but 60-40 or 50-50 is more preferred as to a lender. काई होले से जगह रे देखियो होले लेंडर आपन पैसा दोची जेतबळ सी भाबियो कि ता रिकवरी रेट ता किमित रहयो ना से पैसा तार स्टॉक हेला बुझिले ना. तो जदि गवर्नेंस इफेक्टिवली नथिबो गोटे स्टार्टअप रे तो केबेल बैंक्स माने कि कोई फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन माने इवन प्राइवेट इक्विटी पर्सनल फर्म्स माने भी दे वुड बी रिफ्रेनिंग यू फ्रॉम फंडिंग एनीथिंग. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल जो आपण सेटअप करजनी से जगह रे ही आपण ड्यू डिलिजेंस एक्सरसाइज करिया पड़ियो. फाउंडर्स एग्रीमेंट गोटे स्पेसिफिकली एस्टैब्लिश करिया पड़ियो दैट फाउंडर्स एग्रीमेंट शुड क्रिस्टलाइज द शेयर पोर्शन इन द कंपनी और इन द पार्टनरशिप एंड हाउ दैट शेयर पोर्शन is going to effectively translate into future. आज कथा तो हम भाबियो ना हमें आजडू पाखा भाई 10 इयर्स कथा भाबी कि हम गोटे एग्रीमेंट बनेवा आ खाली हमें आज कथा भाबी करिया हमें स्टार्टअप एंटरप्रेन्योर कमेवा. हमें तो जनरली जीएलसी हेजो आज मार्केट रे अछि काली मु छाडी पळे मु स्टार्टअप कमे कली. स्टार्टअप गोटे आइडिया बेस्ड रे हेइ दउछि. आइडिया इनोवेशन टेक्नोलॉजी रे आपण सर्वाइव करछन्ती बोले आपण स्टार्टअप नले आपण स्टार्टअप नै. एमिति बहुत स्टार्टअप सेटअप होइछन्ती दे आर नॉट एबल टू मैनेज. एबे खाली पियर प्रेशर हो नले कंपटीशन प्रेशर रे पैसा आसिला बोली मु इमिदिया पैसा ए सेक्टर रे मु इन्वेस्ट कर देबी अननेसेसरी एक्सपेंस कर देबी. आपण देखु ना बीआर सेठी जानदियो डॉक्टर बीआर सेठी जने ही इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट एंटरप्रेन्योर इन इंडिया. he owns around 90% of hospitals in India. Amar Utkal hospital jo achi Calling hospital Utkal hospital he owns around 60% stakes. Tanke Dubai based businessman misi matro he unnecessarily purchased a lot of stuffs. आउ तांकर फंड आउ स्ट्रीमलाइनिंग हेलानी किछि भली आउ बोर्ड कंट्रोल्ड इफेक्टिवली चलिलानी. से टाइम रे डाउनग्रेड होबा आरंभ होई जाय. फंडिंग मिलेनी आपन बिजनेस ता सक्सेसफुली हुएनी तापर जाई सो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आसी जाय बुझले ना. गोटे माइनॉरिटी लोक रही बोले तार गोटे पोर्शन बोर्ड रिजोल्यूशन पास होची. बोर्ड रिजोल्यूशन पास होची बोले वोटिंग शेयर रहे गोटे 1% लोक कोन से कहयो तार ओपिनियन रो वैल्यू कोन रहे मत कोन ऑलवेज सुपरसीड हे जो तार ओपिनियन आउ सारो से जो क्राइसिस आसिला से टाइम रे और लेंडर्स भाबिए कि अंगर जो ट्रांसपेरेंसी अकाउंटेबिलिटी अंगर बोर्ड रे ही नहीं तो व्हाई डू यू नीड टू फंड देम. सो दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू शुड हैव एन इफेक्टिव बोर्ड गवर्नेंस. So this would be, to be precise, you should either approach go for a 50-50 or else 60-40. 70-30 with the least preferred controlling person in an entity or else in a LLP or a partnership.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Adya sir, for giving a very good session on the women harassment.
Thank you. I am honored. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Supriya, I have one more question. Like when you are setting up MSME and you are in the e-commerce side of the business, there is a lot of things you do not need full-time employee. You do not need a lot of things can be done in warehouse management.
Yeah.
And when you are startup, hello.
Yeah, you can do that. Yes, I'm hearing.
Yeah. So for MSME, like when you are handling with the contract, like for example, when you are working with the textile, you need the waivers who are working independently and they work for you. They are not your full-time employee, right? If you are working with photographers and whatever, all those stuff, so they are not your full-time employee. So do you still fit into the MSME band of things you can claim yourself as MSME?
See, MSME, if you can of course come under the definition of MSME, but the relationship between an intermediary who is surviving in the market to an waiver or else a photographer or else an independent person is not that relationship to an employer and employee. That is an independent contractor relationship, and for that you should separately establish and categorize the rights, duties, and the payment terms and your obligations and effective way to resolve it in case any dispute comes up. So they can definitely fit in the definition of MSME, but they are a part of, for example, आमे कोबी सेक्टर नेले आमे एबे माइनिंग्स जदि भी नबा माइनिंग्स रे जो माने टेंडर पको जने बिड जो मान होतन दे आर द ओनर्स ऑफ द माइनिंग कंपनीज बट टाइम विथ भी देयर वेरियस वेरियस चेन सप्लाई चेन रे अपस्ट्रीम डाउनस्ट्रीम मार्केट रे भी रोजन दे आर contributing to the MSME sectors. Of course they belong to a part of that, but their role is very minimal. And similarly the lenders transactions and the finance process would be also very less, and incentives provided by the government would be also specifically scrutinized by the government persons and authorities.
Okay, so you can show them, like for example MSME, when you apply for that, they ask you how much employee you have. When you have a startup, you are the sole mole of the system. You yourself handling everything, and with few help of the waivers, the photo contractors, right? Like you pay them, you get your work done, go to the tailor, get the stitching done, all those kind. When you are at very beginning of the phase, you do not have a still to that level that you have a service center on your own. So you can still show them as your contractors and then can go for a MSME, right? Am I understanding correct?
Yes. And literally they become a part of the transaction, so they cannot be excluded. They are specifically under the MSME categories. Amaro definition re medium small scale enterprises 2000, it's a very vast definition. You can't restrict anyone. You might be manufacturing something, but you are preferredly and falling under the purview of the definition of MSME. Of course, the fundings and the entire transaction would be very different, but you definitely fall under the purview of MSME.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from any other entrepreneurs? I think Berao, then I think we can close the program with your permission. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, with your permission, shall we wrap up the program? Then I think no other.
No, we can wrap up the program.
Thank you, Berao. Thank you for this opportunity.
Priyadarshi, can you give a vote of thanks? Priyadarshi.
Yes, sir.
Please,
sure.
It's a great experience for all of us. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Hi. I'm sorry. I was just busy with some of my tasks right now. Thank you, Rishikesh sir, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you, Adya sir, ma'am, and thank you, Supriyo Mohapatra sir, for giving this beautiful and eye-opening session. and so that we learned many things, and our entrepreneur friends had learned many things regarding the legal aspects of startups. And yes, I being an entrepreneur, I know the legalities of startups, and even I had paid penalties, and I had faced this trademarking issue since 2011. There are many things we had done, and we had paid many penalties for it. So we understand the problem. And on behalf of OCF, we would like to extend our thanks and cordial communication for furthers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Make that day break. Okay. All the best. Thanks. Sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a great day.